matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
The king of breakfast TV is back. That's right, Britain's favourite TV host, Eamonn returns to Britain's hottest breakfast programme. Breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Morning to you. The Prime Minister has ordered British citizens to evacuate Lebanon as the Middle East teeters on the brink. 700
of our troops are sent to Cyprus as Israeli airstrikes have killed more than 500 people in a matter of days.
Sir Keir Starmer lands in New York for the UN General Assembly after that emergency Cobra meeting which was held last night.
The Prime Minister acknowledges that short-term pain is necessary for long-term gain during his speech at party conference.
This will be tough in the short term, but in the long term, it's the right thing to do for our country, and we all benefit from that.
The Health Secretary will order the NHS to prioritise clearing backlogs during his speech at conference today. He'll be live with us 7:35 this morning.
And the Earthshot Prize nominations are announced with a special message from the Prince of Wales.
I'm delighted to introduce you to this year's 50 new Earthshot Prize finalists. These solutions are some of the most exciting, innovative and impactful we've seen, and the people behind them are true inspirations.
In other royal news, reports that cracks are starting to show between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as the Duke flies solo in New York. We'll be talking about this shortly.
And this morning, we debate whether Labour hate landlords after the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, announced that rental properties will have to be taken off the market if they're not energy efficient.
And in the sport this morning, League Two, Barrow were beaten 5-0 by Chelsea's second string, who are worth £400 million, though, to be fair. Red Bull have lost another of their important backroom staff to another team. And North Korea are the best in the world when it comes to young women's football. And I have no idea why.
The weather's turning more unsettled once again through the next few days, with persistent rain across some central and northern parts, and then it turns colder everywhere. All the latest details in the forecast coming up soon.
Hello there. 2 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on this Wednesday morning. You're very welcome. I'm Eamonn.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Well, the Prime Minister has told thousands of British nationals in Lebanon to leave immediately.
Yes, around 700 British troops will be deployed to Cyprus this morning, with 2 British warships already on standby in case an emergency evacuation is needed.
Now, in the past week, Israel has launched its biggest offensive against Hezbollah, and it started with the detonation of those pagers and walkie-talkies.
Hundreds of people have already been killed, with tens of thousands forced to flee their homes across Lebanon.
Now, all of this comes as tensions rise in the whole area. We're going to go to the defence editor at the Evening Standard, Robert Fox, this morning. Maybe we're not. Are we going to Robert? We are indeed.
No, I'm
Robert, good morning to you. So why are there so many British nationals in Lebanon?
They've been there, they're probably mixed marriages, they've been there for a long time. It's a surprisingly large number, anywhere between 7,000 and 10,000. And as you say, the Prime Minister has said he'd given warnings for much of the week, the previous week, but get out now. And the 2 ships and 700 extra troops going to Cyprus are there to help you.
Okay, so obviously safety can't be guaranteed now for people. I just want to get your view, Robert, as to what form any conflict is going to take. I mean, we've got these 560 deaths so far in the past week or so. Will this take a similar pattern to how things are being fought out in Gaza?
It's going to be slightly different, but I think that we are beginning to see them ramping up for a land invasion into southern Lebanon, at least up to the Litani River. Whether Israel is prepared to hazard its forces to go right up to Beirut, which it did in 1982, is an open question. By the way, as I've said before, that Israel has a bad history of occupation of Lebanon, but I noticed that the official spokesman of the Israel Defense Forces was saying only yesterday, we've got to root out these bases, which are in civilian houses, and it looks as if, and there's one sure sign, by the way, that a land operation is underway because it's been given a full operational code name, which is Northern Arrows, as the operation in Gaza was given a full code name, Iron Swords, which led to the all-out attack there. It's looking pretty ominous because there have been 1,500 air raids over the past 10 days in which they've taken out senior commanders. Yet another one was reported killed a very senior, historic commander, and they've done the same in Gaza, but the fighting still goes on.
Yeah. Robert, in relation to those 10,000 or so Brits that remain in Lebanon, for the last week or so, the Foreign Office have been urging them to leave the country whilst commercial flights are still going into and out of the country. There are reports that there's hardly any left. For example, British Airways has cancelled all flights. We have our troops now in Akrotiri in Cyprus on standby, and reports front of the Mail talking about a Dunkirk-style possible rescue mission, should it come to that, to evacuate British nationals landing on the beaches of Lebanon. I mean, how close are we to those kinds of scenes, do you think?
Well, given the ships, Isabel, that they've sent, there's a big, very modern destroyer, HMS Duncan. She is there to give the cover and to launch helicopters. But there is a landing support ship which has really big decks, a lot of capacity from which to launch both boats to get people off beaches and helicopters. I think there's a big background to this one, which we'll all remember, is that they don't want the kind of scramble and the very distressing sights that we saw when the regime collapsed in Kabul and the Taliban took over there. They said, absolutely, we're not going to have a repeat of that one, of 2020 again.
But what is going on, Robert? Just explain to people who are saying, what has this got to do with Gaza?
It's really Israel is diverting attention to another enemy. I'm sorry to say, a bigger enemy, a better armed enemy, because Hezbollah, which is a Shiite nationalist militia, very heavily backed and armed by Iran, it came into the picture the day after the massacres and war opened up in and around Gaza on the 8th of October. They have been steadily rocketing and shelling from the north. Israel has had to remove at least 60,000 from its northern towns, dwellings, villages, farms and settlements. And Mr. Netanyahu has said enough is enough because the rocketing has been relentless and it's to stop Hezbollah. But Hezbollah is a much, much tougher, much more embedded militia presence even than Hamas. It's even part of the government in Lebanon, and it's very, very ominous for a very distressed country indeed, which is Lebanon.
Do you think it's fortuitous that the UN General Assembly has this big meeting going on in New York at the same time as this escalation, or frankly, has the UN lost all teeth and will it just be a talking shop and won't change anything?
It always happens at this time of the year, the full National Assembly. It is a talking shop. It is where people can meet. No, it is an awful sign, isn't it, that you've got all the gatherings of the great and the good, many of them, who should be able to fix this, but they have been completely unable to fix it. And Mr. Netanyahu has decided that they can't wait. And as things stand, that most of Israel and the Israeli armed forces are behind him. But it's very difficult at this point to say where it all ends up. In Gaza, they're faced for the time being with a military occupation at tremendous cost. It's been reported that from the Hamas health authorities, I must admit, that 41,600 have died since October the 7th in Gaza. And the death toll is heading for 600 over the past 10 days in Lebanon. It's a pretty grim outlook, but the most extraordinary thing is that supporters of both sides can do absolutely nothing to stop the fighting. That is Iran and the backers of Hezbollah and the Americans and Britain with Israel. They've pleaded for a ceasefire. It has got absolutely nowhere. It's looking really quite rocky.
Robert, thanks for explaining all of that. We'll say goodbye to you. Thank you very much indeed. Robert Fox from the Evening Standard. At the Labour Party conference, the government will take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS, says the Health Secretary Wes Streeting, who's due to wrap up the whole conference with a big speech later today.
That's despite questions remaining over how they plan to resolve the ongoing pay dispute with nurses.
Now, it follows the Prime Minister's speech, who promised to take back control.
The work of change has begun. The patient, calm, determined era of politics as service has begun. Planning reformed, doctors back in theatre, new solar projects, new offshore wind projects, the onshore ban lifted, Great British Energy launched, one-word Ofsted judgments ended, a border security command, a national wealth fund, getting Britain building again, the Renters Reform Bill, stopping no-fault evictions, and the Railway Services Bill, bringing railways back into public ownership.
Well, the Prime Minister did acknowledge that short-term pain is necessary.
This will be tough in the short term, but in the long term, it's the right thing to do for our country, and we all benefit from that.
Let's go to Catherine Foster for us this morning to talk about, so the PM's gone, he's now in New York. Who's left there today? Is today final day, wrap-up day?
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. The Prime Minister, after that speech, as you say, has gone off to the United Nations General Assembly in New York. But today, we're going to be hearing from Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson. We're going to be hearing from Ellie Reeves. She's the Labour Party chair. We're going to be hearing from Liz Kendall. She's Department of Work and Pensions. But also Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, who has got big plans for reform of the National Health Service. So I know he'll be coming on breakfast a little bit later talking about this himself, but I think it is interesting that there is this sort of joined up thinking now between health and the DWP, in that what he's going to say this morning is that they are going to take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS. So basically, surgeons, hospital doctors who've got really great practice at getting through procedures and through operations efficiently and getting a number of procedures done quickly, to roll out that practice in other parts of the country, because of course we've got 7.6 million people on waiting lists, and one of the knock-on effects of that is that there's something like 2.8 million people sitting on out-of-work benefits because they are ill. Lots of those are waiting for treatment on the NHS, which means that they may want to work, but they can't. So Wes Streeting's saying, look, let's roll out this best practice. Let's target the areas with large numbers of people that are on sickness benefits. I mean, places like Blackpool, like Liverpool, like Glasgow, that have got sort of over a fifth of the working age population on out-of-work benefits. Let's target those areas, get hospital waiting lists down and get those people back to work. That will also, of course, bring the benefits down, the benefits bill down, which has rocketed since COVID and is very, very expensive. Of course, all of this much easier said than done.
OK, Catherine, thanks very much indeed. And as Catherine mentioned, we have Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, on the programme at 7:35 this morning.
Looking at other stories coming into the newsroom on this Wednesday morning, the man who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump outside his Florida golf course has been charged with attempting to kill him. 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh could face a potential life sentence if he's found guilty. That's after Trump's camp also said the 78-year-old has received assassination threats from Iran.
Obesity rates in England have levelled off for the first time in 20 years. The number of children who are classified as obese is now at its lowest level this century. That's just weeks after the government announced its 10-year plan to save the NHS amid growing calls to expand the sugar tax.
And the Princess of Wales has begun planning her annual Christmas Carol concert as she appeared on the royal agenda for only the second time since announcing the end of her chemotherapy. Princess Catherine held a meeting in Windsor to discuss her annual festive carol service, which will be held in Westminster Abbey. All that business about kids getting smaller and what do they call it? Obesity crisis levelling off. Don't believe it. That's another thing I don't believe. It's never been worse. Absolutely. If you just sit at a bus stop and just watch anybody going by. Sit at a football match. Sit at a concert. Do whatever you want. People are fat as whatever. They're fat. And they're hugely fat. They're disgustingly fat. And there's no point saying, I'm fat or Isabel's fat or whatever. We don't even come near to what you see waddling around the streets out there. And the amount of women involved is absolutely frightening. It's really hard to see a woman that is within normal weight range.
I'd be intrigued to know how they're measuring kids, because certainly neither of my children have had their weights monitored, so I don't know what the figures are based on. I hope it's true. I would like to think that our children are not all growing up doomed.
Well,
they certainly shouldn't be.
They do nothing about the food situation. They're
it's
avoiding
the lack of sport. 30 minutes once a week in primary school, state schools is not enough.
It's not just that. It's the rubbish that we're being fed and given in supermarkets, and this whole sugar tax, and they're thinking, oh, we don't want to do that anymore. Well, let's avoid that. We're annoying the food industry. Annoy them more. If we're being poisoned, if we're being fed to oblivion, then we need to do something about it. But don't give me, oh, it's levelled off. We're not getting fat anymore. We're fat as, what rhymes with
sin.
that?
Just
anyway.
say sin.
Yeah, sin, that's what we are. Still to come, are cracks starting to appear between the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex?
Yeah, we'll have more on that after this.
The Britain I grew up was the most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public. Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth, available at gbnews.com.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Please tell me that we're British. In our darkest hour, we can work around this. The beer will still be flowing at Christmas. Tell me, please.
Martin, without using bad language, there's no words to describe that this is another major blow to the hospitality sector. I wake up every day with anxiety thinking, what's going to happen to us now? Oh my God, now the weather's against us. Not only are the government absolutely battering us, then the weather's now hitting us as well.
Kate Stewart, this can only mean one thing. Prices, once again, going through the roof.
And there's nothing we can do. We have on costs. We have to buy from the brewery. We have the VAT. We have then the VAT, what we take. It is an absolute nightmare To be in the pub game now, Martin, is very, very difficult. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel. Everything just keeps hammering us from every different direction. And obviously, we have to pass that on to the customers, then price increases. There's nothing we can do. We don't want to sell beer at an inflated price. We want it as cheap as possible to get people through them doors. But we have no option. They're going to go up again in the new budget. You know, there's no help for us. What are we supposed to do, Martin, except the only option is to close the doors and say, enough is enough. We can't do this anymore. I absolutely cry my eyes out having to put the prices up because you think, oh, my God, people are just going to turn away and walk. But we can't swallow the costs all the time, Martin. It's impossible for us to do because we will go bankrupt. There has to be, there's inflation getting hammered on us yet again, and we have to pass it on. I feel it when I take my children out for something to eat. You're like, wow, that has just cost a fortune. But what is the answer? The answer is the government needs to look at saving the hospitality sector and stop being so greedy in everything that they take away from us, or there won't be pubs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Now, the Prince of Wales, he says his Earthshot Prize this year, the finalists are the most exciting nominees ever.
Yeah, that was in a video that he released where he also unveiled those who'd made the shortlist. And our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, has been looking into it.
I'm delighted to introduce you to this year's 15 new Earthshot Prize finalists. These solutions are some of the most exciting, innovative and impactful we've seen. And the people behind them are true inspirations. I know you're as passionate as I am about making a difference to our planet, and we can't wait to share their stories with you.
Prince William's unveiled his 4th cohort of Earthshot Prize finalists, each finding a new solution to repair the planet, with an ambition to scale it and tackle what are claimed to be urgent climate challenges. 15 finalists from across the world are now in the running to receive 5 £1 million prizes, which will be awarded in Cape Town this November. British finalists Douglas Martin, who founded MyAlgae, offering a sustainable plant-based alternative to fish oil, and Dimple Patel from Nature Metrics, which uses eDNA to produce an accurate picture of an area's biodiversity, explains how Prince William is having an impact.
The networks that Prince William's able to open, and honestly, just to be here and to see the people in the room is a testament to the amount of work that he's put in.
Is able to really drive forward that conversation of we can do this properly, we can use the right data, we can quantify our impact, and then we can hold people accountable to make sure that we're taking the steps we need to build a greener future.
The Prince of Wales started this mission in 2020, keen to turn doom and gloom scaremongering into climate optimism. There are 5 categories, or Earthshots: protect and restore nature, clean our air, revive our oceans, build a waste-free world, and fix our climate. Inspired by John F. Kennedy's Moonshot project achieving the seemingly impossible task to put a man on the moon, Prince William wants to find seemingly impossible solutions to restore the planet. He's taking after his father, the King, and grandfather, Prince Philip, as environmentalists, and Michael Bloomberg, who now advises Earthshot winners, believes the future King's focus is young people.
The Prince is helping the next generation lead the way by building on his family's long track record of environmental stewardship.
From transforming food waste into nutritious ingredients to bringing clean energy to rural Africa, this year's finalists are hoping to make a global impact. The prize ceremony is just weeks away, but that will just be the start of their journey to make that dream into a reality. Cameron Walker, GB News.
All of that comes as Prince Harry appeared in New York without his wife.
Yeah, and on top of that, Harry has recently attended a charity event in California alone where Meghan pulled out at the last minute due to illness.
So what do we read into all of this? A coincidence or a crack starting to show? Let's go to royal and showbiz reporter Kinsey Schofield, and she'll tell us what she thinks about all of this. Kinsey, good morning.
Done. It's over. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I think that I looked at the dates of last year when those rumors started circulating from Radar Online about Harry and Meghan taking time apart, and it was around this time last year. So maybe, and I'm just throwing this out there, I'm not a mom, but I don't know, maybe as a mom, Meghan likes to spend the fall with her kids. Maybe that's when they have the fun holiday parties at the school and you're getting your Halloween costumes ready. Maybe she just likes to stay at home with the kids once the holidays start kicking into high gear. But it was interesting to me that around the same time last year, these rumors started to circulate that Harry and Meghan, they were frustrated professionally and taking some time apart. And, you also have Prince Harry coming to visit you in the next few days without Meghan Markle as well for the Well Child Awards.
Yeah, and they did come together previously for those awards, didn't they? Famously, when the late Queen died, and then they popped, I think, across to the Netherlands or something for the Invictus. So they're not always apart at this time of year, but who knows, as you say, it's perfectly normal for couples to work separately. But there's also lots of briefing about their employees and how happy they are. And I've just been reading in the Daily Mail this morning that one of their employees has said that the Sussexes watered the seeds so that we can flourish.
That's the sort of crud language that she would use,
They heard we adopted a dog, and the next day I had a luxury brand leash on my doorstep. So the front page says
stop somebody else resigning. Why don't we get all the people who have resigned over the past 5 years or whatever on to talk about this?
But there's some counter briefing, isn't there, going on from Montecito?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we saw this rebuttal almost immediately. There were reports in the Express saying that this was a disgruntled former employee. But if there's a disgruntled former employee, they are disgruntled for a reason. So it's almost as if that excuse doesn't justify what we're hearing, for, the negative information that we're receiving about Harry and Meghan's toxic management style. I mean, I do think, it's my personal opinion, that they do have issues when it comes to communication and when it comes to management and making decisions. And if you're working underneath them, that's got to be a struggle.
How would you describe, Kinsey, the dynamic of the relationship?
I think that there is a very specific person that wears the pants in the family, and she knows where to buy luxury dog leashes. That's how I would describe that.
My director is saying that's most women, though, isn't it? That they maybe call the shots, know where the luxury leashes are. No pun intended there. Listen, we've got him, as you say, coming over to the UK. Will there be any meetings, do you think, between perhaps the King and his long-lost son?
Well, look, I'm going to be honest with you. If I told you that I had any of that information, I would be lying. And I would say that anybody that tells you otherwise is lying, because the King and Prince Harry are trying to prove to each other that they can trust each other. And so we won't have that information until well after the fact. So if I'm being honest with you, I have no clue. I think we all hope for some sort of reunion or reconciliation, because you don't want to see families, especially when your father is ill, you don't want to see them at such a distance with each other. But I do believe that they're not going to release that information because both of them are trying to prove to each other that they can trust each other.
So what would you say Harry's next moves are going to be over the next year, for instance? I mean, how does he identify himself, and how does he establish himself in people's minds?
Well, look, looking at that timeline that I was explaining about Harry and Meghan last year versus this year, they had headlines like from Rolling Stone magazine, Harry and Meghan in their flop era. What have they accomplished since then that is tangible? Not really anything. They've had several Netflix flops. They did have their big blockbuster, but everything else has not connected with audiences. And what I think we're seeing from Prince Harry in New York right now is him trying to rehabilitate his image. Spare, commercial success, but he became a punchline here in the States. He really became a punchline all over the country based on some of the content in his book that he dwelled on. So I think he's trying to redeem himself. He's trying to become a respected thought leader. And that's really what these visuals are in New York, and when we see Harry and Meghan on some of these tours.
Finally, Kinsey, I'm just looking at our Your Say page, and people are commenting on Prince William. We just saw him in that VT before we came to you, launching his Earthshot Prize nominees, and they're talking about the beard. They called him a scruffy ... What's your view on the beard look? I'm not a fan myself, I've got to be honest.
Oh, really? I think he looks very comfortable. I think he's very handsome with it. But I'm much more interested in the Princess of Wales Christmas concert than any of Harry and Meghan's stuff. I'd like that on the record.
I hope she plays the piano. There's just something about her long flowing locks, a ball gown, and tinkling on the ivories. It's just poetic. Fingers crossed.
It is.
Thanks,
Kinsey. I can't wait.
Cheers. See you. Right, we're going to get the weather situation as to what's happening. The rain's died off, but I think it's coming back again. Aidan McGivern will tell you.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update for GB News from the Met Office. It's a bright start for many of us, but it is going to turn wet from the south and southwest, with heavy showers in many places away from the more persistent spells of rain that are already starting to move into parts of Wales and the southwest through the morning. The shield of cloud additionally affecting the south and across central parts. Brighter skies for Northern Ireland, Scotland and northern England, a scattering of showers here, and feeling cold in the north of Scotland, 10 or 11 Celsius with a northerly wind. Milder in the south, although not feeling very pleasant as the rain sets in and the winds turn up a notch. So we're going to end the afternoon with a spell of rain moving into Wales, moving away from the southwest, some brighter skies emerging here, but turning damp across London and the home counties, East Anglia. The rain pushing up into northwest England. It will be heaviest across Wales at this stage, but it's going to be persistently damp elsewhere. Southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers, but the most frequent showers heading into the north and northwest of Scotland, interspersed by brighter spells. And actually, we're going to keep the bright spells and showers going through the next few days across northern Scotland, while the rest of the UK sees spells of rain and a lot of cloud cover. The rain tending to slow down as it pushes into southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, and most especially northern England during the night, and those outbreaks of rain are really going to mount up across the northeast of England, with the potential for 80 to 100 millimetres accumulating over the Pennines and the North York Moors, 50 to 80 at lower levels. That could cause some disruption through Thursday, especially for northeast England. Further south, some showers, but a brighter day to come for the far south, and likewise northern Scotland still seeing the cool northerly winds, but bright spells and showers. And then into Friday and Saturday, it turns colder across the whole of the UK.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Great British Giveaway, it is great, really great. Have a go.
You could be the next luck.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A83 is closed at Rest and Be Thankful because of poor hillside conditions. Diversions via the old military road alongside the A83. The M80 in Glasgow, 2 lanes are closed westbound for emergency repairs at junction 13 for the M80 at Provan. In Flintshire on the A55 North Wales Expressway, the westbound exit at junction 34 at Ewlow is closed after an accident last night. On the M54 in Staffordshire, the exit slip roads each way at junction 1. The Wolverhampton and Cannock turn closed for emergency repairs. In Bedfordshire, the A421 remains closed each way between the A6 and the M1 near Bedford because of flooding. Buses replace trains between Bedford and Bletchley for emergency engineering works. In Hampshire on the A303, there's a lane closed westbound for emergency repairs between Picket 20 and Andover, and buses replace trains again today between Calstock and Gunners Lake for emergency engineering work.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan Tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Carabao Cup last night. Paul will run you through what happened.
I still want the job to do the football results.
Yes.
I still think I'd be
You
good
do
at that.
them. You have that job.
Chelsea, 5, Barrow.
0.
So Chelsea, I mean, Barrow, they're in League Two, so it should be easy for Chelsea. So they made a few changes. In fact, 11 changes they made. And even with their 11 changes, they're worth over £400 million. So it should have been, you've got Neto, Felix, Mudryk, and Kunku, who scored a hat-trick. Ben Chilwell played. So these are all very, very good footballers that can't get a look in the first side and then in the first team and then came through. So they won very easily yesterday.
Yeah, OK.
Manchester City, 2.
Are these one leg or two legs at this stage?
Oh, there's one. See, not only are they just one leg, if it goes to penalties, they don't even have extra time because it's like, let's just get this out of the way. So there's no way that the... Man City 2, Watford.
1.
Lots of changes there. A lot easier than Sunday. Walsall drew 0-0 with Leicester. Now, Leicester fans are getting very unhappy at the moment about Steve Cooper, the manager. They were singing, "This is embarrassing, this is," that lovely song. Anyway, he's come out now, Steve Cooper, and said, well, you know, the fact that people are giving me a hard time, it just makes me want to work harder. Leicester haven't got to win the Premier League yet, but they managed to get through on penalties. So it should have been easier against Walsall, and Aston Villa beat Wickham 1. Beat Wickham 2-1. Tonight, it's Manchester United playing the Europa League there, Eamonn.
Who have we got tonight?
You've got FC...
Oh, yes.
FC Twente.
What are we in?
FC Twente.
What's that, the UEFA League?
This is the Europa League, which runs similar now to the Champions League. 36 teams in it. There's 8 games you've got to play, 4 at home, 4 and away. Then they get 12. It's 8, yeah.
I'm bored already.
But anyway, I'm going to make it more interesting to you because Steve McClaren, of course, Steve McClaren, you know where I'm going with this already, don't you? You know where I'm going. Steve McClaren was manager of FC Twente for a couple of years, around 2000.
We're playing them tonight.
And you are playing them tonight. And, of course, Steve McClaren links with Manchester United, links with FC Twente. So I thought it might be a nice opportunity to hear Steve McClaren being interviewed. Bless you.
Just lick your cat, will you? Let me sneeze.
Have a look at... OK, Steve McLaren, here we go. Let's look at this. I love this.
Sort of knew when I came here, and Champions League, Liverpool or Arsenal, I thought maybe one of them we would draw, and it is Arsenal, I think. I think we are not just what you call underdogs, but massive underdogs. I think there is no expectations for FC20, so everything is there for a surprise.
Call. Underdogs, how you say? Champions League? Hey.
But you can speak a foreign language if you put an accent on there.
Yeah, that's it. There's two ways of doing it, wasn't there? There's either shouting really loudly, do you know? So there's either that one or speaking into accent. Then helps. Because the thing is, the interviewer, the woman who's the interviewer, the sports host in the Netherlands, probably spoke better English than Steve McLaren does, and he's doing the how you say. But anyway, it's a nice opportunity to see that. SV20 against Manchester United. Eric Ten Hag played for them as well, so there's all links there.
OK, what about this North Korean team? So they're the best women's team in the world.
Yeah, the under-20s. It's very... I can't work out how this is. But North Korea, when it comes to women's football, are a powerhouse. They've won the Under-20 World Cup for the third time. There we are. There's scenes of people in North Korea watching the footage. Well, usually you never know whether it's actually... I thought it was going to be a matter that they were being shown the footage and they didn't actually win it, but they think they have. But they're the joint most successful side in the football tournament's history. They've equalled the USA and Germany. They haven't played a game since 2018 and won the Asian Cup in March. And for some reason, the women, when it comes to women's under-20 football and women's football, North Korea are unbelievable at it. When it comes to the men, they're like 111th in the world. But women's football, North Korea is the place.
There we go. Now we know.
Isn't that bizarre, though?
It's bizarre, but very interesting.
North Korea is bizarre.
It's
You know,
very-
there's probably some sinister reason behind it.
Well, I'm trying to...
Kim Jong-un plays for them.
Well, just a firing squad or something if they don't win. I'm not even joking.
But Kim Jong-il, the father, I've got to quickly say, is that do you hear the story about when he was supposed to have played the greatest golf game ever? He went out, he'd never played golf before, and according to the North Korean news agency, they said, I think he got 16 holes in one.
Oh, yeah.
16 holes in one.
Yeah, and they're saying, and he retired because he wanted to give everybody else another chance. So, there you go.
So there you go. Paul, thank you very much again. See you later. We'll be back with the papers right after this.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The Sleep Report 2024 is based on a comprehensive survey conducted all across the country, and the report found that over half the population, get this, falls short of the recommended 7+ hours of required sleep each night. And shockingly, 1 in 4 of us is getting 5 hours or less, and that includes you, doesn't it?
Yes, I'm very bad at sleep. 4 or 5, I'd say.
That's
A bit like
awful.
Maggie Thatcher. What would you get on average?
I'd say at least 6. 7 probably average.
That's probably not good. I think you probably need 8. Well, almost half of Brits rate their sleep quality as 5 out of 10 or lower.
Dr Manesh Shah and Dr Sita Shah joins us now to tell us all about the sleep and how Brits are struggling. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
First question is to you both. How many hours do you both get?
God, I think it varies. I try and hit that 7 hours of sleep.
Why are Brits so bad at getting sleep, especially in terms of hours? 4 or 5 hours for me, 6 hours for you. It's the same for everybody out there in the UK. We're just not going to bed early enough. Is it as simple as that? Or is it slightly more complicated?
Yeah, so I think the key is to establish a good routine. So waking up at the same time every day, making sure that you're going to sleep at the same time every day, and being quite sort of rigid and strict with yourself when it comes to those timings.
And also, it's not just the length of, I get, say, 7 hours, it's the quality, isn't it? You've got different phases of sleep.
Yeah.
Just explain those. Is it, as far as I remember, REM, deep sleep? Just tell us about that.
Correct, yeah. So, essentially, there's 4 stages to sleep. So there's stage 1 and stage 2, which are your lighter stages of sleep. Then stage 3 is your deeper sleep. And then you've got the stage 4, which is your REM, which is a rapid eye movement stage. And it's the stage 3 and the REM sleep which is really, really important for restorative and regenerative sleep.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time to take a look at the newspapers this morning and a right mixed bag for you. Let's start with The Telegraph, leading with Sir Keir Starmer emphasising the importance of state intervention in economic reforms in his keynote speech yesterday.
Mirror also reports on the Prime Minister's speech. The headline's Tough Love.
The Daily Mail reports on approximately 700 British troops being stationed in the Mediterranean to potentially evacuate thousands of Britons from Lebanon.
Daily Express celebrates the Princess of Wales' return to royal duties. She begins preparations for her Christmas Carol concert.
We're going through the papers this morning in the company of GP and medical writer Dr René Hundekamp and the former Liberal Democrat Minister Norman Baker. Welcome to both of you. Norman, shall we start by talking about the Middle East crisis? It's our lead story today. It's on the front of The Telegraph.
Yes.
You know, for anyone who's been thinking for a while now, what's this got to do with me? Well, suddenly the, Prime Minister calling for the immediate evacuation of the 10,000 Brits who are there. And we have many of our own Marines being whisked into the region, should they be needed for emergency evacuations. It's getting very serious.
This is a vortex of horror, to be honest with you, what's happening in the Middle East. And we have President Biden and others saying we should exercise control. No one's listening. No one's listening at all on either side. Hezbollah continues to fire rockets into Israel, and Israel continues to behave in I think, a pretty outrageous way in terms of how it deals with the West Bank, with Gaza, and with now Lebanon. And I think part of this is about Netanyahu staying in power. Be that as it may, the fact of the matter is, as you say, there are 10,000 Britons involved in the Middle East. We may have to get them out. But this really is a very dangerous situation. If we end up with a Middle East war, which we might do if Iran decides to get involved on the side of Hezbollah, then this could get very serious indeed. It's easy to start a war, it's very difficult to stop it.
Well, also the way it's been sort of mixed up. We heard when Starmer was last in the United States, in Washington, meeting Biden, they talked about how Putin had just shared his very closely guarded nuclear secrets with Iran.
Indeed.
And we know that Iran and now, allegedly, Russia are helping the Houthi rebels bombing in the Red Sea, which is all the shipping lanes. It's suddenly just, as you say, this vortex of... What was the phrase you used?
Vortex of horror.
Vortex of horror.
It is a vortex of horror, but I think we need to remember that Israel is the only democratic country in the Middle East. They are an ally of ours. As you rightly say, there are inherent dangers in those countries around them. They have this is what is never really spoken about, having rockets fired into their country continuously. What would we do if Scotland were not part of the UK and were firing rockets at us daily? We wouldn't listen to the states telling us to actually sit back, be gentle. They're actually protecting the West from a potential nuclear power, and we should throw our weight behind them.
Okay. I don't think they're approaching this in the right way, the Israelis. I mean, look, there's about 500, was it killed yesterday in Lebanon? There's a whole lot of women and children being killed. They're being indiscriminate, in my view, in terms of how they're dealing with this. No one's suggesting they shouldn't deal with the people who are threatening them, but they're being indiscriminate. The people have died in Gaza. Tens of thousands of innocent people have died. We just can't give them a blank cheque to support them in this way.
You can, I suppose, the argument is even if they are your friend and your ally, you can say, actually, what you're doing is bordering on breaching international law.
Sadly, no, you can't say that because you don't know that. Sadly, people die in war. In Gaza, less people have died, civilians versus combatants, than in any other war in the world. But we like to hate Israel.
I don't want to hate Israel, but I want to protect people who are innocent.
Your microphone's done...
It's mine, apparently.
Oh, yours? Oh, it doesn't matter about her.
I love it.
Well, what are we going to do about Isabel's microphone
they'll sort
then?
that out. Yeah.
Right.
Did they just say the woman's microphone?
Yeah.
I want to ask you something here. There's figures published today which says England has begun to turn the tide on rising obesity for the first time in 20 years. I don't believe
Nor
it.
do I.
Good. That's just a bit mad there.
I don't believe it either. I think it's very interesting that they've picked 2020, where we had the pandemic. If you actually go back to 1993, the figures are slowly rising. I think this is all just part of the intervention that this new government wants to make in our lives, because they're going to start saying the sugar tax has worked, this has worked, so we need to go further.
Yeah, but they're not going to increase the sugar tax. They're not going to spread it out.
But they are going to ban junk food advertising. They're thinking about things like smoking. They want to be more interventionist in our lives and the things that we do, rather than look at the root causes of this and go back to education and introduce domestic science again, where kids learn about food, rather than look at the big food companies that are filling our kids full of absolute rubbish.
Exactly. Nobody looks at the big food companies. I mean, I simply say this, while I was off for a couple of weeks and just about doing various things, just in the high street, just watching people waddling.
Yeah.
People on crutches, people on frames, people, lots of things, waddling. And I mean, I'm talking huge. I mean, I'm anorexic compared to most of them.
I'm dead.
And yeah, see what you mean. But it is, I mean, for someone to sit and say to me, oh, we've got this obesity crisis under control, it surely has never been worse.
It's never been worse. And I see it in my practice every day, that I would say that probably 7 out of 10 patients that I see, weight has played a role into the position that they now find themselves in.
Yeah.
Right, I'm back.
You're back with the mic that works.
Norman, where should we go? Do you want to talk?
I want to talk about dirty air. Yeah. You see, the thing is, we're talking about health matters here, and Norman, I love farm air. I love the smell of manure.
Me too.
For instance.
So do I.
Do you? All right. Well, that's good. Good. I thought it was a bit weird there. I used to be a farming reporter, and I also lived in a house whereby when the wind changed in a certain direction, you got the smell of manure coming in from the fields. And very, very nice. So what's this report?
Well, it's perfectly natural. It's a perfectly natural smell, as a matter of fact. So you get people moving to the country who complain about it. They shouldn't move there if they don't want the smell, but they do complain about it when they get there. However, this is the Daily Star, which is obviously a paper of record. And the story here is Sniff a Cow, which says that sniffing a cow is utterly brilliant for your health, experts say. People who live in cities should visit farms as often as they can to expose themselves to mega microbes on animals, which may be medically correct. Perhaps Reddy's got a view on that. However, I think farmers may take a view on people from cities coming to smell animals on their farm.
It's all the rage, isn't it? Microbiomes.
But it's not a rage and it's not a fad. We are getting more and more really credible data now. We're even linking microbes now with Parkinson's disease, mental health, IBS, all of those things. And now the hygiene hypothesis is back now, and we're looking at it. Why have we got so many allergies? You know, so many things like asthma. And we think, again, it's because we've become obsessed by germs. And actually what children need is to eat a bit of dirt and the odd spider.
I went to an amazing exhibition in Amsterdam at the zoo in the city there. It's called Microbia. And it's the world first sort of exhibition of microbes. And it was absolutely disgusting. I mean, when you see what's under just a perfectly clean fingernail wriggling and crawling on anybody, even a doctor going into surgery, it's enough to put you off for life. So it is a bit gross, the idea of a microbiome, but it's absolutely essential. You need your healthy bacteria, as they say.
There's even data to show that children that are born by caesarean section who don't pass down their mother's microbe-filled vagina have an increased risk of autism. So there's a trend now to smear a baby's mouth who's been born by caesarean with the mother's vaginal secretions, to just because a baby doesn't have its own microbiome until it takes that first breath.
Gosh.
And it's the way it's built. It's really fascinating. This is a subject I love.
Amazing.
I find that amazing.
Can we talk about operating theatres?
Yes.
They're taking the practices that formulas from Formula One, the way Formula One would operate things. And I know airline pilots have already adopted techniques about double-checking things and whatever. What's your view on this?
So I don't often have good things to say about Labour, but today I'm going to say I think this is a really good idea. So there are hospitals where private work alongside NHS, and my other half, who's a surgeon, works in them. And he says for every 10 knee surgeries that they do, the private team will do 20. And it's because they're just geared up to go boom, boom, boom. While one patient is waking up, the next one is being brought in. And it's that kind of thing that they do in a pit stop about synchronisation that we should get right. And they could ask my son, whose new book is on pre-order, Life in the Pit Lane.
It's such a hypocrisy, I think, though, about how Labour is so obsessed with, you know, talking about how wonderful the private sector is when it comes to health, but when it comes to education, it's evil and greedy.
Well, it's inconsistent, certainly. That's certainly true. As far as the health service is concerned, there's undoubtedly steps that can be taken to make it more efficient than it is. And it's not simply about throwing money at the NHS, and I don't think that's going to be the answer. So, you know, equally, I welcome the fact that they're looking at the way the NHS operates.
Well, we've got the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, in half an hour's time here live on this very programme. Let's have a look at the weather.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update for GB News from the Met Office. It's a bright start for many of us, but it is going to turn wet from the south and southwest, with heavy showers in many places away from the more persistent spells of rain that are already starting to move into parts of Wales and the southwest through the morning. The shield of cloud additionally affecting the south and across central parts. Brighter skies for Northern Ireland, Scotland and Northern England, a scattering of showers here, and feeling cold in the north of Scotland, 10 or 11 Celsius with a northerly wind. Milder in the south, although not feeling very pleasant as the rain sets in and the winds turn up a notch. So we're going to end the afternoon with a spell of rain moving into Wales, moving away from the southwest, some brighter skies emerging here, but turning damp across London and the home counties, East Anglia. The rain pushing up into northwest England. It will be heaviest across Wales at this stage, but it's going to be persistently damp elsewhere. Southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers, but the most frequent showers heading into the north and northwest of Scotland. They're dispersed by brighter spells. And actually, we're going to keep the bright spells and showers going through the next few days across northern Scotland, while the rest of the UK sees spells of rain and a lot of cloud cover. The rain tending to slow down as it pushes into southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, and most especially Northern England during the night, and those outbreaks of rain are really going to mount up across the northeast of England, with the potential for 80 to 100 millimetres accumulating over the Pennines and the North York Moors, 50 to 80 at lower levels. That could cause some disruption through Thursday, especially for northeast England. Further south, some showers, but a brighter day to come for the far south, and likewise northern Scotland still seeing the cool northerly winds, but bright spells and showers. And then into Friday and Saturday, it turns colder across the whole of the UK.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A83 remains closed each way at Rest and Be Thankful after poor weather caused hillside movement. Diversions are via the Old Military Road. Trains have been stopped northbound from Kidderminster to Stourbridge Junction after a train broke down. In Bedfordshire, the A421 remains closed each way between the A6 and junction 13 of the M1 near Bedford because of flooding. That's been closed since the weekend. Buses replaced trains between Bedford and Bletchley for emergency engineering works. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Eurotunnel report a wait of up to an hour for passengers at Folkestone, and buses replaced trains again today between Calstock and Gunnerslake for emergency engineering work. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
You can be. Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good morning. The Prime Minister orders British citizens to evacuate Lebanon immediately as the Middle East teeters on the brink.
700 troops sent to Cyprus. Israeli airstrikes kill over 500 people so far in a matter of days.
So Keir Starmer lands in New York for the UN General Assembly after that emergency Cobra meeting last night.
The Prime Minister acknowledges that short-term pain is necessary for long-term gain. This was at his speech at the party conference yesterday.
This will be tough in the short term, but in the long term, it's the right thing to do for our country, and we all benefit from that.
The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, will order the NHS to prioritise clearing backlogs during his speech in Liverpool today. He's going to be live on Breakfast in half an hour.
Well, what you're looking at there is senior members, somewhere behind that smoke and mist and redness, taking to the stage last night, having a bit of a sing-song. And so this is the thing I hate. I think that's all perfectly acceptable, that's all fine. But anytime a politician has a holiday or relaxing or enjoying, we have to then point out pensioners are shivering and troops have been deployed to the Middle East, and yet that's all they can do. There you are. Do you think you should remain tone deaf to that sort of thing? Is it acceptable or is it not? Let us know, and we'll find out what Wes Streeting thinks about all of this at 25 to 8 this morning.
The Earthshot Prize nominations have been announced with a special message from His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales.
I'm delighted to introduce you to this year's 50 new Earthshot Prize finalists. These solutions are some of the most exciting, innovative and impactful we've seen. And the people behind them are true inspirations.
Also this morning, are you a landlord? We are debating whether Labour hates landlords. The Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, announced rental properties will have to be taken off the market if they're not energy efficient. Is that common sense, or is that a bit of picking on people?
TV and radio presenter Lisa Snowdon is joining us in the studio this morning, 20 past 8. She's going to be opening up about her experience of the menopause.
And in sport this morning, in the Carabao Cup, Barrow were beaten 5-0 by Chelsea second string, who are worth £400 million, though, to be fair. Manchester United play Erik ten Hag's first love SV20 in the Europa League tonight. And in F1, will anybody be left at Red Bull, who's now their head of race strategy leaves?
The weather's turning more unsettled once again through the next few days, with persistent rain across some central and northern parts, and then it turns colder everywhere. All the latest details in the forecast coming up soon.
Very nice to see you on this Wednesday morning. Thank you for your company. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and you're tuned in to GB News Breakfast. Well, leading the programme this hour, the Prime Minister has told thousands of British nationals in Lebanon to leave the country immediately.
Around 700 British troops will be deployed to Cyprus, with 2 warships already on standby in case an emergency evacuation is needed.
Well, this week, Israel launched its biggest offensive against the terror group Hezbollah. That's after thousands of pages and walkie-talkies exploded across Lebanon last week.
Hundreds of people have already been killed, tens of thousands forced to flee their homes there, and the Prime Minister arrived in New York overnight. Now, he's there because there is a UN General Assembly where world leaders will discuss what is going on in the Middle East.
Yeah. Our political editor, Christopher Hope, has the latest for us from New York.
From the Labour conference in Liverpool to New York City, Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, has arrived here for the UN General Assembly meeting of world leaders. He'll be speaking to them on Thursday. Before then, there's some work to be done. Most importantly and pressingly for the Prime Minister is getting Britons out of Lebanon. They've been told to leave straight away as the fighting between Hezbollah fighters and Israeli troops gets worse. 2 warships have been dispatched to the region to help with any evacuation. It's a big issue now for the UK government. Separate to that, of course, there's the fighting in Ukraine, the battle, the war between Russia and Ukraine. President Zelensky, Ukraine's president, is here. He's got a victory plan. He's trying to get that signed off by President Joe Biden before he quits office as US president in November. And of course, that means the job open for either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. And we do know that the Sir Keir Starmer is keen to meet either, if he can, or maybe on the sidelines of the UN this week. We'll wait and see. So a lot to happen, a gear change, a step change between discussing policy, domestic policy, with activists in Liverpool to here in New York, where big issues facing the UK globally await.
That's Christopher Hope reporting for us from New York there.
Joining us now, Daily Telegraph correspondent Chatham Confino about all this. Chatham, the situation is obviously escalating in Lebanon. How would you describe it? What's going on?
So the latest development is that Hezbollah fired a ballistic missile towards Tel Aviv today and setting off rocket sirens all across Tel Aviv, but also in the big city of Netanya, which is further north. The aim of this ballistic missile was Israel's intelligence headquarters just north of Tel Aviv. And of course, this is the most serious, I would say, escalation on the side of Lebanon towards Israel so far. For Israelis, a red line is Tel Aviv. For many different reasons, not because lives in the north are less worth, but because Tel Aviv is obviously hugely populated. So this is a huge escalation, as you also mentioned. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Lebanese are now fleeing southern Lebanon because Israel is carrying out the most extensive bombardment against Hezbollah since the 2006 war between Israel and Hezbollah.
Huge amount of pressure on Israel, won't there? And indeed, of course, Hezbollah. Obviously, we see Hezbollah as a prescribed terrorist group in this country. But meanwhile, you know, Israel is an ally. They will be under pressure, won't they, to step back from proceeding into what looks to be, you know, a stated new war aim, which could drag us all into something much, much more serious.
Yes. And we're looking at a similar situation to that of Gaza. People forget very, very quickly what actually brought us here. Hezbollah started firing rockets, anti-tank missiles, and drones at Israel just 24 hours after Hamas committed one of the worst massacres against civilians. They did that in support of Hamas. And ever since, they've fired 9,000 of those missiles and drones and anti-tank missiles at Israel. And they have left 60,000 people internally displaced. The minute Israel starts hitting back, you hear the United Nations Security Council calling for immediate de-escalation. You hear condemnation from human rights groups. I'm stunned, really, to see how the international system is reacting to this conflict. Gaza is something else because it's a territory, it's not a state, and many civilians are kept hostage by terrorist organizations. Lebanon is a sovereign nation. Hezbollah is part of the government. Hezbollah is a prescribed terrorist organization. Hezbollah started this war, and still, the only time the United Nations starts calling for sides to de-escalate is when Israel hits back. It's astonishing to follow it when you're on the ground, really.
Bit about the 2006 war, because there have been long-running tensions between the two countries, and there was this buffer zone introduced after that, wasn't there? How much chance or likelihood is there that this resolution, whatever it's called, I think it's the 1701 resolution, can be reintroduced so that therefore those people in Israel that have been displaced can return to the north of the country and this can all calm down urgently?
I'm happy that you're mentioning it because, again, the world keeps forgetting what actually happened here. As you mentioned, in 2006, the United Nations Security Council passed a resolution to end the war between Israel and Hezbollah, and it demanded that Hezbollah disarm and remove itself from southern Lebanon. It didn't do so. It did the exact opposite. It armed itself to its teeth from Iran, and it now controls all of southern Lebanon. So if international scholars and all of those who care about international law, if they really look at this situation, they should look towards the failure of the Security Council resolution and the failure of the international system to implement it. I don't think that they can do it. The only way to really strong-arm Hezbollah and by extension, the Lebanese government is to cut off aid to Lebanon. They receive billions of dollars in aid from many, many countries around the world. And if they really want them to listen and to stop having a terrorist organization on its southern border with Israel, that's the way to implement it. Other than that, I don't see any way that they can reach a diplomatic solution.
Interesting. Very, very interesting, Jotham. Thank you very much indeed for outlining that for us and explaining things. We appreciate it. The time, 9 minutes past 7 o'clock. The government will take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS. Who said that?
That's Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, who's due to wrap up the Labour conference later on today.
OK. Well, despite questions remaining over how they plan to resolve the ongoing pay dispute with the nurses, and we're going to be talking to him about that, we go to Catherine Foster, who's at the party conference this morning, and let's hear what she has to say about this, because we've got Wes Streeting on at 7:35. Catherine.
Yes, good morning. Both final day of conference here in Liverpool. It finishes at 12. Yesterday, of course, we had the Prime Minister's speech, which passed off, apart from the very unfortunate gaffe saying sausages when he missed hostages, and also one heckler late on. There seems to always be somebody, doesn't there? They're pretty happy with how that speech went. Certainly, the mood in the hall was good. They were as upbeat as I've seen it, but the mood has generally been pretty subdued for a party that's ridden to this massive, massive victory. So today we'll be hearing from Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, about rolling out good practice to areas of deprivation where there's big problems with people being on benefits because they're waiting for surgery. But certainly divisions still here on one of the things that is not going away is this row about the winter fuel payments, because the unions are absolutely appalled, frankly, with the fact that a Labour government has decided to take this money from millions of pensioners. So they're holding a vote just before the end of conference. It was originally scheduled for Monday. They're not happy. They feel it's been pushed into the graveyard slot. So it's not binding, but I think just a measure of the fact that, sure, Labour have got a huge majority, but there are many, many tensions, although it's a government that's only 2.5 months old.
Catherine, I just want to talk about a video that one of our people on the ground at conference managed to film last night of high spirits. I think Wes Streeting, who's coming on the programme with us shortly, was one of those having a good time, high old time, singing karaoke along with Jonathan Ashworth. Of course, lost his seat in the recent election, but it was a high-profile member of the shadow cabinet before the election. Plenty of people will say, fair enough, it's their first conference in power. There's lots to be happy about. But the optics of this, you have to admit, Catherine, not ideal, given that overnight things have got increasingly tense in the Middle East, not least with our troops being sent to Cyprus and Brits being told to evacuate immediately. Will they regret, perhaps, those images being seen by the world?
Well, let's have a look first. I was tucked up in bed to be on TV at 6 talking to you, but let's have a little look first at that clip.
Step inside the eye of your mind.
Parties, especially towards the end. The Mirror Party is like an institution at Labour conference, and the karaoke in particular. So we had cabinet ministers like Wes Streeting, we had Jess Phillips, the Minister for Violence Against Women and Girls, also Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, singing their hearts out to Oasis and other songs. And yes, of course, this is against the backdrop of the winter fuel payments. Pensioners have been protesting here in the rain, really, really worried about not being able to afford to put the heating on this winter. And of course, the Prime Minister jetting off to the States while the situation in the Lebanon deteriorates. Hundreds of people are dying. So you can see that the optics of this are not good. I suspect, of course, what they will say is, we work very hard, we're just letting our hair down. But yes, those pictures of them enjoying themselves perhaps does feed into some people who will think they say one thing, but look at them, they're partying while, people are dying and pensioners are shivering.
Catherine, thank you very much indeed. So we would never do anything in life if we were curtailed by what else is going on.
Well, let's not forget conference season last year. We had Nigel Farage dancing with Priti Patel whilst there was a cost of living crisis going on. It has been ever thus that politicians let their hair down when they are at these conferences, irrespective of what the country is going through at this point in time.
Why should a cost of living situation stop you dancing?
Yeah. Well, exactly. That's, I suppose, the argument. Let us know at home whether it offends you, what your thoughts are this morning. We've got Wes Streeting, who perhaps his voice might be a little hoarse. That's clear, at least anyway, after singing his heart out late last night, coming on the airwaves to talk to us about that and everything else in about 15 minutes' time. But what do you think about that? Should politicians be seen having a good time when there's difficult things going on out there or not? Let us know your thoughts. gbnews.com/your say.
Let's have a look at other news on this Wednesday morning. The man who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump has been charged with attempting to kill the former president. 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh could face a potential life sentence if found guilty. That's after Trump's people also said the 78-year-old has received assassination threats from Iran.
New research reveals obesity rates in England have levelled off for the first time in 20 years. According to this research, the number of children who are classified as obese is now at its lowest level this century. That's just weeks after the government announced its 10-year plan to save the NHS amid growing calls to expand the sugar tax.
And the Princess of Wales has begun planning her annual Christmas Carol concert. She appeared on the royal agenda for only the second time since announcing the end of her chemotherapy. She held a meeting at Windsor Castle to discuss her annual festive service. That's going to be at Westminster Abbey. All that business that, weight is at its lowest level this century. Century's 24 years. It's always like this century, it's like
and as Dr. Renee was saying,
years.
This research was from 2020, which, as we all know, was a bit of a blip year anyway.
Yeah.
We need to get to the bottom of that, I think, actually, before we keep repeating it all morning. In the meantime, here's your forecast with Aidan McGibbon.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update for GB News from the Met Office. It's a bright start for many of us, but it is going to turn wet from the south and southwest, with heavy showers in many places away from the more persistent spells of rain that are already starting to move into parts of Wales and the southwest through the morning. The shield of cloud additionally affecting the south and across central parts. Brighter skies for Northern Ireland, Scotland and northern England, a scattering of showers here, and feeling cold in the north of Scotland, 10 or 11 Celsius with a northerly wind. Milder in the south, although not feeling very pleasant as the rain sets in and the winds turn up a notch. So we're going to end the afternoon with a spell of rain moving into Wales, moving away from the southwest, some brighter skies emerging here, but turning damp across London and the home counties, East Anglia. The rain pushing up into northwest England. It will be heaviest across Wales at this stage, but it's going to be persistently damp elsewhere. Southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers, but the most frequent showers heading into the north and northwest of Scotland, interspersed by brighter spells. And actually, we're going to keep the bright spells and showers going through the next few days across northern Scotland, while the rest of the UK sees spells of rain and a lot of cloud cover. The rain tending to slow down as it pushes into southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, and most especially northern England during the night, and those outbreaks of rain are really going to mount up across the northeast of England, with the potential for 80 to 100 millimetres accumulating over the Pennines and the North York Moors, 50 to 80 at lower levels. That could cause some disruption through Thursday, especially for northeast England. Further south, some showers, but a brighter day to come for the far south, and likewise northern Scotland still seeing the cool northerly winds, but bright spells and showers. And then into Friday and Saturday, it turns colder across the whole of the UK.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, there's still plenty of time, you'll be pleased to know, to win an incredible £36,000 in our Great British Giveaway.
OK, it's like having an extra £3,000 every single month of the year. Have a go.
You could be the next Great British Giveaway winner with a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. Imagine getting the winning phone call for that on demand. Good luck.
Now, if I won £36,000, I mean, you couldn't, or you couldn't. I was going to say pay it off against a house or get a house
Well,
to
it
rent.
could certainly go towards your rent, couldn't it? £3,000 a month.
No, but I'm
tax-free.
saying buying a property.
right.
Buying a property wouldn't buy much with it. But so still to come, we're going to ask, if you were a buy-to-let landlord, do you think the present government hates you? OK, so we're talking about that. Are they making life increasingly difficult, or is it just practical common sense that the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, says, look, if you're not,
Energy efficient, yeah.
Energy efficient, the very term, then you shouldn't be allowed to rent out your house to someone else after this.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us. Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9 only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Question we're asking now, is Labour out to demonise landlords, or is it about time those who own multiple properties and they rent them out, but they're not energy efficient, are held to task on all of this? Well, that is our debate this morning. And we have Maxwell Harrison here in the studio, who is a political commentator on this. And you believe very definitely that Labour hates landlords.
Absolutely, 100%. It's absolutely clear that not only have we now got in this country two-tier policing, two-tier judicial system, but we've got two-tier renting. This is a pure attack by Labour government, which is hell-bent on hitting those normal, ordinary people who are trying to increase their pensions during these incredibly difficult times, just to have a little bit of money on the side. And this idea now that everyone's going to have to pay £10,000 plus in a matter of years to just have an energy-efficient house, it's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous.
Well, we'll get the response to that from Richard Abel. Richard Abel is a period and listed property specialist, and he joins us this morning from Suffolk. Richard, you heard what Maxwell had to say. He firmly believes Labour do hate landlords. What's your view?
No, that isn't the case. I think this is overdue. Serious landlords take the responsibility seriously because they want good tenants and they want their tenants in there for years. So they're going to go ahead with this or already have implemented the changes. Any new landlord has 5 years to undertake all these improvements for the investment of the property. If they don't want to make that investment, then they can cash in their investment and invest elsewhere. But property is always an extremely good investment because you can feel and touch it rather than stocks and shares. So any landlord which doesn't want to go forward with these changes, they should probably move on and invest elsewhere.
And is this specifically only targeted at landlords and rental properties, or is the Labour government and indeed Ed Miliband also taking aim at perhaps period and listed buildings like you're an expert in, which have very low EPC energy ratings? Because my understanding is the Conservative government were saying big changes need to come in almost, I think, by 2025, and they might not be mortgageable unless they improve their energy rating.
There's always going to be problems, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't undertake the improvements. I restore period listed buildings, but we rewire them. It's LED lighting throughout, efficient heating systems. So even listed buildings, actually, if you implement the right changes, can stay not as good as a brand new, well-built new build, but they can be up there. And there are changes afoot for solar, hidden solar panels as well, which would help for hot water.
OK. Well, Maxwell, you see, listening to all of that, you could say if the property in question, the property is being rented out, if it's not up to scratch on this, it should be energy efficient. The tenant should be getting the best out of this, and the rest of the environment should be benefiting from it. Or you could say that in these times of very few properties about on the market and a real problem with renting stuff out, should this be happening at all? Is this just going to make the whole situation worse?
Well, it's going to make the situation worse, considering that even at the current projections, it's going to take 90 years to ensure that all of these houses are energy efficient. And already, it's very clear that we are 160,000 tradespeople short to ensure that we can get these houses done. So we don't have the ability to do so. And right now, at a time when people have got a shortage of the pennies and pounds in their pockets, to expect private landlords who work very hard day in, day out to ensure that their tenants have the best possible housing themselves, to expect them to go out and fork out another £10,000 when they frankly don't have it, it's despicable from Labour. Labour have also been talking at conference about now finally stopping no-fault evictions. Where do you stand on that, Maxwell? Well, again, I think it's totally morally reprehensible. The landlord has a right to look after that property and at least have that element of control. And to use a law which already is prejudiced against landlords, again, it's really sick. It's incredibly wrong. And when you're looking at most people now spending 22 months now in the court system to try and evict a tenant, it's wrong. It's totally utterly wrong.
So it may well be wrong, Maxwell, but as regards an economic investment, I mean, if you had the extra money, the extra cash, you were able to take out a mortgage and get a rental property, is that something you would consider, or would you run a mile from it?
I think I'd run a mile, and most people are. I mean, when I speak to constituents in Faversham and Mid-Kent, in my capacity as chairman of Reform in the area, everyone I know is selling their properties, and even last year, 22% 25% of all the houses on the market in London were former buy-to-let. So again, it's once again very clear that people are selling houses as quickly as possible because they are no longer an investment. The legal system isn't there to back them, and it's very clear this Labour government will do everything in its power to harm and hinder those who want to
And
make
Richard, are you seeing any of this in your business, that more houses are going on the market?
That's not necessarily a bad issue, because then somebody else who can afford it can take the property forward and invest for the future. So they may not be landlords, they may be owner or occupiers. So actually these properties are not going to disappear, they're just going to be regenerated. You know, we're all going to be dead and gone one day, but these properties will be here in 100 years' time if they're well maintained and well looked after.
OK. Maxwell Harrison, Richard Abel, thanks very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed. We'll take a break there. Right after that, we're going to have the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting.
Fresh from the dance floor.
Fresh from the dance floor. Murder on the dance floor. Goodness me. Right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A83 remains closed at rest, and be thankful because of poor hillside conditions caused by bad weather. Diversions via Old Military Road. West Midlands Metro services aren't running between Edgbaston and Centenary Square because of a technical problem. Buses replaced trains between Worcester Foregate Street and Stowbridge Junction after a freight train broke down. In Bedfordshire, the A421 remains closed each way between the A6 and M1 near Bedford because of flooding. Buses replaced trains between Bedford and Bletchley for emergency engineering works. On the M4 from Wales into England, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident on the Prince of Wales Bridge. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Eurotunnel report a wait of up to an hour for passengers at Folkestone, and buses replaced trains again today between Calstock and Gunnislake, and that's because of emergency engineering work. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The Britain I grew up was the most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public. Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth, available at gbnews.com.
Good morning. We're going to talk some more now about our top story, which is the escalation situation in the Middle East. Reports this morning of sirens sounding in Tel Aviv as the Israelis have shot down a missile that was fired in from Lebanon. This after yesterday, 558 were killed, including 35 children. We can speak to the Health Secretary on behalf of the government this morning, Wes Streeting, to get the very latest in all of this. Good morning to you, Mr Streeting. We hear from the Prime Minister that all British citizens, 10,000 or so of them in Lebanon, are being urged to leave immediately. How do you advise they do that, given that almost all commercial flights, including all British Airways flights now, have been cancelled?
So I think there are still some commercial flights. Obviously, it's a fast-moving situation. People should take those up wherever possible. We have got our own armed forces standing by to assist with an evacuation if that becomes necessary. The clear message from the Prime Minister today, and indeed other international leaders at the United Nations, is that Israel and Lebanon must step back from the brink. This is a really dangerous moment. We want to see de-escalation of this conflict, and that's the clear and unequivocal message the Prime Minister will deliver at the United Nations today.
Now, you, on the other hand, are going to be delivering quite a lot about the National Health Service when you make your address to conference today. What are you going to be saying?
Eamonn, I'll be saying that our NHS is broken. It's going through what is objectively the worst crisis in its history, and that's had really serious consequences for patient care, whether that's people waiting far too long for an operation or indeed even an ambulance. Health outcomes in our country are not as good as those of comparable countries. So if you're a cancer patient, your outcomes are likely to be worse, you're more likely to die. That's not a tolerable situation. And we've got to reform the NHS, not just to confront the crisis in front of us today, but to prepare the NHS to weather the coming storm of growing ageing society, rising levels of chronic disease and rising cost pressures. And unless we reform the NHS, it will go bust.
Could I ask you, you settled very quickly with the doctors. And now we've got 5.5% nurses who are not happy at all. What are you going to do about them?
Well, the junior doctors' strikes had cost the taxpayer billions of pounds. That was a heavy price of failure. But we also saw around 1.5 million cancelled operations, appointments, procedures, and that was bad for patients. And I was clear that in order to cut NHS waiting lists, we needed to end the strikes. That's why within weeks of taking office, we did a deal with the junior doctors. I understand the concerns of nurses and other parts of the NHS workforce. That's why one of the decisions the Chancellor took when she came in was to accept the recommendations of the independent pay review bodies to give those workers an above-inflation pay increase. We want to rebuild confidence in that process, and of course I want to rebuild our NHS. No one wants to see further industrial action in the NHS. We can see the price that's been paid by patients, but also the staff themselves, and I don't just mean being out of pocket when they're on strike. I mean seeing the consequences for the NHS of this crisis. So it's now up to me, up to us, to mobilise more than 1 million people who work in our health service, to put their shoulders to the wheel and to be the team, the generation that take the NHS from the worst crisis in its history, get it back on its feet and make it fit for the future. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
Well, are you, though? Because, I mean, yes, you rushed to reach this deal with now wanting to be known resident doctors, but they then said this was just a first step and they're not ruling out future industrial action. Nurses also threatening that they may still choose to do that. Victoria Atkins was on the programme yesterday saying you've completely lost control of the review public sector pay process. And she says it's no wonder that other healthcare professionals and people working in the health sector are asking for inflation-busting pay rises because they think that they're not being valued in the same way by you. And overnight, we've also heard that lawyers now want a 15% pay rise. Everybody's going to be coming to you wanting this, aren't they? Where does it end?
Well, I thought the Shadow Health Secretary showed some brass neck yesterday. When she came on your programme, in fact, when she goes on any programme, the first word she should say is sorry, not just for her failure as the former Health Secretary, but for the failure of 14 years of Conservative government that led the NHS to the worst crisis in its history, failed patients and wasted taxpayers' money. That's their record. And I was not prepared to continue to pay the same heavy price for failure. That's why we took that action. I'm looking forward to working with, as you say, now resident doctors so that they feel optimistic and hopeful and confident about the future of our NHS. And that's my message to all staff in the NHS. I'm sorry about the fact that they were let down so badly by the Conservatives, and I'm determined to work with them as a team because they've got a government that's fundamentally on their side. We have the same shared vision for the future of our NHS, and everywhere I go in the NHS, the thing that gives me hope that this is possible are some outstanding people providing great care against a pretty bleak backdrop. And as I'll be setting out today in my speech to the Labour Party conference, I'm going to take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS, whether that's sending in crack teams of clinicians into areas with the highest level of people off work, off sick to bust those backlogs, or indeed rebuilding the family doctor relationship that people really value. And we've got a team, we've got a plan, and we've got a record of delivery. We did it before, we'll do it again.
Right, well, Wes, on that very point, and I think it's important to talk about things that are going to change. We can all moan about what's not working or whatever, but a working practice that you want to bring in is to look at sport, to look at the precision of Formula One and look at how they check their cars coming into the pit lanes, how they have quick changes to the cars, the tyres, the engine, that sort of thing, and out the car goes again. And you think there's something that, as a profession, health people can learn from their Formula One counterparts?
Yeah, look, this isn't something I've come up with. This is something that consultants and clinical teams of doctors and nurses have come up with in some of our leading hospitals in this area. In fact, there was one London hospital that did more procedures on a single day, on a Saturday, than they would normally have done during the working week. And that's why I emphasise not just the importance of investment, important though that is, but also of reform, because what those teams have done is reform their ways of working so they can get more patients through, improve the productivity of the system, and get waiting lists down faster. And I want to take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS. I sometimes complain the NHS has got more pilots than the RAF, and if I just did one thing, which was adopting and rolling out things that are proven to work in a small number of cases and roll them out across the whole of the NHS, I would be doing a hell of a lot of good with those brilliant clinical minds that are showing us what the future of the NHS looks like. And that's what gives me hope. As I say, I know people have been feeling pessimistic about the future of our NHS. Indeed, 7 in 10 of our fellow citizens are expecting to have to pay charges for NHS care at some point in the next decade. I've never known that level of anxiety and pessimism about the future. And it's my responsibility, this government's responsibility, to give this country its hope back. And that's exactly what I'll be doing in my speech today, just as the Prime Minister did in his speech yesterday.
Yeah, there is a great deal of pessimism, you're right, about the NHS. There are millions of pensioners very upset about their winter fuel payments also possibly likely to be taken away under your authority, under your government. People concerned about peace, seeing British troops being parachuted into the Middle East or certainly into Cyprus, and worried about that. And yet you talk about the brass neck of the Shadow Health Secretary coming on and not saying sorry yesterday. But there's pictures of you last night living it up, singing karaoke alongside Jonathan Ashworth, having a high old time, whilst people are seriously worried about the issues that I've just mentioned.
Well, firstly, let me say, when it comes to the state of the public finances, we're taking that incredibly seriously. And I know that some of the choices we've already made have not been popular. I know that some of the choices that we will have to make in the coming weeks and months will also be unpopular. But I just sort of say gently to people and with humility, look at where government by gimmick gets us. Look at where false promises have got us. Look at where recklessness with the public finances have got us. For too many years now, we've had prime ministers, chancellors, ministers who come on and pretend that there are just only easy options or that you don't have to make choices and trade-offs, and trying to say the popular thing for the short term rather than sometimes the harder thing to say in the long-term national interest. And that's the leadership that this government is showing. And these aren't just the Prime Minister's choices or the Chancellor's choices. We're a team. And we're a team that's inherited a dire economic situation. We're a team that's determined to turn the situation around and give Britain its hope back.
Can I just say one last thing before we go? And I just want to talk about Sausagegate. You know, what would you have given him out of 10 for his speech yesterday, your leader, Keir Starmer?
Well, I thought it was an outstanding speech with a vision and hope for the future. Sometimes, you know, as politicians, whether in interviews or in speeches, we might stumble over a word. And whenever that happens to any of my colleagues, whether they are friends or foes, I always just think there, but for the grace of God go I.
Yeah. Wes Streeting, thanks for your time this morning. We appreciate it. We've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good speech.
Thank you. Yeah, good luck.
But, you know, predictive text on my phone, I get annoyed when I text things and I say, you know, I say something like I finish with the word look or something, and then it decides to put in look out.
Yeah.
And you read it back and you think, why did
I've just discovered, though, on WhatsApp, the edit function. So once you've sent a message, I can correct all my grammar. The autocorrect has done.
Well,
because I hate sending a message and reading it and thinking, gosh, people think I'm a journalist and I can't write.
My point being that did Starmer, did his autocue, did it go into predictive text there at the end? Because I don't really see how you can mix up hostages with sausages. Well, although he corrected it very quickly.
He did, and I have to agree with Wes on that 100% there, but for the grace of God go I. You know, I've, on occasion, not put my teeth in and tripped over a word. It happens to us all. It's just because...
Excuse me, it doesn't happen to me.
It's happened to you.
It does not happen to me. I defy the viewers and listeners to say, when did Eamonn make a mistake?
Oh, go on then. Yeah. Let's dig through the archives.
But I said nothing there.
I do think just the context of that whoopsie was just a disaster. But anyway, I'm pleased to see that the press haven't focused on that hugely because it's really, you know, pretty minor in the grand scheme of things.
We're going to take a break and we're going to talk about children. Can they identify fruit and veg? Do they know what a turnip is? Do they know what beetroot is? Do they know what celery looks like? Talking about that next.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
In October, a new collection of portraits will be unveiled, which record some of the most impactful women of modern times, including Elizabeth Taylor in her role as Cleopatra, Beyoncé, Princess Diana and Veronica Lake. The pieces were created in tandem by the artistic duo Sequin K and Jerry Kinch, and they join me now. Jerry, tell us a bit about how you got into making these portraits.
Yeah, so Sequin and I have been walking in and out of each other's lives for like 9 or 10 years now. And although her art is very different to my art, we've always sort of said we'll do something together, you know. I mean, her work with crystals is so different to my traditional oil painting. And it's like, you know, they say the East is East and West is West and never the twain shall meet, but we kind of proved an exception to that rule. And we've done something here quite unique, you know. Painting's been my whole life, you know, ever since I was a child, you know. It's been something that's always kept me in good stead, you know. It's something that I think jumped over from my grandfather. He was a painter of the churches in Ireland, and ever since I was a child I just painted naturally, and you know, it's always been a way for me to earn a living as well.
Sequin, as I speak to you, I hope we're going to reveal a portrait that has been brought in. This is a 6-foot portrait of Veronica Lake. And to Jerry's work, you have applied what I would call sequins, Swarovski crystals. How do you apply them?
The Swarovski crystals have been applied one by one in a sort of a meditative state. And I use a syringe with the strongest glue in the world and also some little tools. And they're just placed on one by one. So it's sort of like a modern-day pointillism, I would say.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're doing the papers. We're going through them with Norman Baker and Renee Hundekamp, and we're going to talk about screen use and the impact on sight, Norman. It's in The Guardian this morning.
This is an interesting but rather worrying story, in my view. More than 1 in 3 children and teenagers worldwide are short-sighted, according to the largest study of its kind. And the reason given for this is the excess attention to computer screens, which is making them myopic. And the suggestion that things carry on as they are, 40% of the population globally will be suffering from myopia by 2050, which is a horrific
So the body
figure.
would adapt to what it's being given, how it's being used.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also there's a suggestion that people in urban areas who presumably have less time outside actually have more short-sightedness than people in rural areas.
And it ties in, Renee, with your story about how children can't identify key fruit and veg, nothing to do with their eyesight.
Well, it might have.
It does, but, you know, so many of our kids growing up in cities completely disconnected to the reality of where their food comes from.
But this comes back to our story earlier as well, doesn't it, where we said we need to reintroduce into schools proper cooking, where we teach children what the different vegetables are. They have a vegetable patch where they can grow them, you know, and they learn all of these things. It's critical. How do we expect them to eat things that they don't even know what they are?
Well, they will do it. I mean, the connection is broken. People think that meat or whatever comes from a packet. They don't think it comes from an animal.
They wouldn't know where it came from, to be honest with you. They get a supermarket tray with a plastic bottom on it and a bit of cellophane on top. They have no idea what it is. And they find, actually, some people find butcher shops still exist quite offensive. I actually find them, I don't eat meat, but I don't find butcher shops offensive because I actually think it's people should see what they're eating.
They should, and actually, when they hatched chickens at school and ducks, and then we had a duck meal, and I said to her, you know those ducks that you hatched at school, well, that's what this is, and she sat back and she thought about it, and I think it's essential. We have to teach them what we're eating.
Yeah, otherwise we're raising hypocrites. You know, if you're happy to eat it, you've got to think about what you're eating. Where should we go? Should we talk about a Game Boy story, Norman? Hyundai can be hijacked using a Game Boy.
Yes, this is a driver who's suing Hyundai after his £47,000 keyless car was stolen in 31 seconds by a gadget disguised as a Nintendo Game Boy. And these modern cars, which are keyless, actually are very vulnerable to interception from some of these machines. And actually, you know, we ought to go back perhaps to the idea of having keys on doors, which are difficult to deal with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't understand. I mean, in London, apparently, it's impossible to insure a Range Rover because of this particular crime. You know, these companies need to take responsibility for this now and step back and say, OK, this isn't working. We either find some sort of AI or tech that stops it happening, or we go back to keys.
Where do you stand on sending women to prison? The Labour government apparently will send fewer of them there.
Well, I can't believe I'm going to agree with Labour twice in one day, but I agree with this. I mean, it's ridiculous. Most of the women in prison are there for drug offences and shoplifting in relation to drugs. That's ridiculous. But I actually believe this should apply to men as well. I said to Normal in the break, we should only be sending people to prison who scare us. We shouldn't be sending people to prison that do things that we don't quite like or they offend us. And we should be finding other ways to punish them.
Yeah.
So financial crime should never go to prison, but we should I think we should hit these people where it hurts, in their finances, and then make them do community work in the sectors that they abuse. I think that's really important.
Yeah, prisoners are there to protect the public, and you don't need to protect the public from someone who's smoking a cannabis joint. You really don't, actually. And the prison population has, by and large, doubled in this country since about 1990. We haven't got twice as many criminals. It's because people say, oh, well, let's make sentences longer to deter people. It doesn't deter people. I know from my time in the Home Office, what deters people is the likelihood of being caught and successfully prosecuted, not the length of a theoretical sentence. And it's all wrong in this country. We've got people in prison who shouldn't be there. They're now being let out early because the prisons are full. Let's get people out of prison who shouldn't be there in the first place.
And where do you stand then on, you know, on the internet, insulting people on the internet, and the latest crusade against people who were rioting and burning hotels?
On the internet,
10 seconds.
I don't like people who post anonymously. If people had to be identified as to what they were saying, then they wouldn't be doing what they're doing.
Thank you, Norman. Thank you, Renee. Back next hour. Here's Ada McGibbon.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update for GB News from the Met Office. It's a bright start for many of us, but it is going to turn wet from the south and southwest, with heavy showers in many places away from the more persistent spells of rain that are already starting to move into parts of Wales and the southwest through the morning. The shield of cloud additionally affecting the south and across central parts. Brighter skies for Northern Ireland, Scotland and northern England, a scattering of showers here, and feeling cold in the north of Scotland, 10 or 11 Celsius with a northerly wind. Milder in the south, although not feeling very pleasant as the rain sets in and the winds turn up a notch. So we're going to end the afternoon with a spell of rain moving into Wales, moving away from the southwest, some brighter skies emerging here, but turning damp across London and the home counties, East Anglia. The rain pushing up into northwest England. It will be heaviest across Wales at this stage, but it's going to be persistently damp elsewhere. Southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers, but the most frequent showers heading into the north and northwest of Scotland, interspersed by brighter spells. And actually, we're going to keep the bright spells and showers going through the next few days across northern Scotland, while the rest of the UK sees spells of rain and a lot of cloud cover. The rain tending to slow down as it pushes into southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, and most especially northern England during the night, and those outbreaks of rain are really going to mount up across the northeast of England, with the potential for 80 to 100 millimetres accumulating over the Pennines and the North York Moors, 50 to 80 at lower levels. That could cause some disruption through Thursday, especially for northeast England. Further south, some showers, but a brighter day to come for the far south, and likewise northern Scotland still seeing the cool northerly winds, but bright spells and showers. And then into Friday and Saturday, it turns colder across the whole of the UK.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Trains have been stopped between Stockport and Sheffield because of a points failure. On the M1 in Derbyshire, there are northbound queues after traffic was stopped because of an accident between junctions 28 and 29 near Mansfield. West Midlands Metro services aren't running between Edgbaston and Centenary Square because of a technical problem. Buses replaced trains between Worcester Foregate Street and Stourbridge Junction after a freight train broke down. In Bedfordshire, the A421 remains closed each way between the A6 and M1 near Bedford because of flooding. Buses replaced trains between Bedford and Bletchley for emergency engineering works. On the M4 from Wales into England, there are eastbound queues after traffic was stopped because of an accident on the Prince of Wales Bridge. In Berkshire on the A34, there's a lane closed northbound just before East Ilsley, where someone's broken down, causing 2 miles of queues. And Eurotunnel report a wait of up to an hour for passengers at Folkestone.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
There's an incredible...
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Morning. The Prime Minister has ordered British citizens to leave Lebanon immediately as the Middle East teeters on the brink.
700 of our troops have been sent to Cyprus as Israeli airstrikes kill more than 500 people in a matter of days.
Meanwhile, Keir Starmer has landed in New York. It's for the UN General Assembly after an emergency Cobra meeting last night.
The Prime Minister acknowledges that short-term pain is necessary for long-term gain during his speech at party conference.
This will be tough in the short term, but in the long term, it's the right thing to do for our country, and we all benefit from that.
On this programme this morning, we heard from the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting. He's going to order the NHS to prioritise clearing backlogs. He's got a big speech at conference today. That's after the Cabinet let their hair down last night in a video that could be seen by some as tone deaf.
We've been debating whether or not Labour has a problem with landlords. This is after the Energy Secretary Ed Miliband announced rental properties will have to be taken off market if they're not energy efficient.
TV and radio presenter Lisa Snowdon joins us this morning, 8:20, as she opens up about her experience of the menopause.
And in the sport this morning, in the Carabao Cup, League Two, Barrow are beaten 5-0 by Chelsea's second string, who are worth £400 million, to be fair. Red Bull have lost another of their important backroom staff to another team. And North Korea are the best in the world when it comes to young women's football, and I still have no idea why.
The weather's turning more unsettled once again through the next few days, with persistent rain across some central and northern parts, and then it turns colder everywhere. All the latest details in the forecast coming up soon.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Wednesday. You're watching GB News. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Isabel Webster, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Is Paul Coyte. I was looking at that karaoke, the cabinet there on stage last night, letting their hair down. That's the sort, I mean, office shenanigans here at GB News. I mean, come to the Christmas party.
Yeah,
that'll be you and me up there.
It would be, and us being tone deaf, I think that's probably where it would go. But yeah, that really, I think we'd sing a little better than that, though.
That's what to look forward to.
You do regularly on the programme. I can confirm.
Actually, that's a good point. Fair enough. Yeah.
Thanks, Coyte. See you in a bit. To our top story this hour, and the Prime Minister has told thousands of British nationals in Lebanon to leave the country immediately.
Well, around 700 British troops have been deployed to Cyprus this morning. 2 warships already on standby in case of an emergency evacuation.
Well, this week, Israel launched its biggest offensive against the terror group Hezbollah. That's after thousands of pages and walkie-talkies exploded across Lebanon a week ago.
Hundreds of people have already been killed, tens of thousands forced to flee Lebanon in general. And here's what the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, told us half an hour ago on the programme.
We have got our own armed forces standing by to assist with an evacuation if that becomes necessary. This is a really dangerous moment. We want to see de-escalation of this conflict, and that's the clear and unequivocal message the Prime Minister will deliver at the United Nations today.
Well, earlier we spoke to the defence editor of the Evening Standard, Robert Fox.
We are beginning to see them ramping up for a land invasion into southern Lebanon, at least up to the Litani River. Whether Israel is prepared to hazard its forces to go right up to Beirut, which it did in 1982, is an open question. By the way, as I've said before, that Israel has a bad history of occupation of Lebanon, but I noticed that the official spokesman of the Israel Defense Forces was saying only yesterday, we've got to root out these bases, which are in civilian houses, and it looks as if, and there's one sure sign, by the way, that a land operation is underway because it's been given a full operational code name, which is Northern Arrows, as the operation in Gaza was given a full code name, Iron Swords, which led to the all-out attack there. It's looking pretty ominous because there have been 1,500 air raids over the past 10 days in which they've taken out senior commanders. Yet another one was reported killed a very senior historic commander, and they've done the same in Gaza, but the fighting still goes on. It is an awful sign, isn't it, that you've got all the gathering of the great and the good, many of them, who should be able to fix this, but they have been completely unable to fix it. And Mr. Netanyahu has decided that they can't wait. And as things stand, that most of Israel and the Israeli armed forces are behind him. It's a pretty grim outlook. But the most extraordinary thing is that supporters of both sides can do absolutely nothing to stop the fighting. That is Iran and the backers of Hezbollah and the Americans and Britain with Israel. They've pleaded for a ceasefire. It has got absolutely nowhere. It's looking really quite rocky.
Fox from the Evening Standard there. So here's the thing. Centre stage today at the Labour Party conference, Wes Streeting, right, who we had on half an hour ago. But you think the look is bad. He took part with Jonathan Ashworth last night and they were doing this bit of a jig up on
Eamonn,
stage.
you know me, I'm not expressing an opinion, but I am saying a lot of people will find that offensive. People who are worried about their winter fuel payments, people who are concerned about the situation in the Middle East. Should they be up there having a good time? It is their first conference in power. That's the question I put out to you. Let us know what you think. You think it's fine? I
think it's fine. Yeah. I think it's absolutely fine. I think I really get annoyed when I see criticisms of, say, politicians on holiday, unless it's during term time or something. That's a different thing, or taking part in I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, or whatever it is. I don't think that is on. I really don't. I think if you're signed up to attend Parliament, that's what you should be doing. And I get that. But, you know, at this minute in time, they're 4 days or so into their conference. It's all very tense. They're doing what they're doing. They've got to have a good time as well. They've got to bond. They've got to, you know, show that they're human.
Well, let's see what Catherine Forster thinks about it. She joins us this morning from conference because, of course, Health Secretary Wes Streeting is making that speech at the conference a little bit later on in Liverpool. It's at 10 o'clock this morning. He's promising to take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS. Good morning to you, Catherine. Will he be able to deliver that, do you think, after a high old time last night?
Yes, I think he'll be consuming quite a lot of caffeine this morning. Let's just deal with the partying, as you've mentioned it, Isabel, shall we? Shall we just first have a quick look at a clip of a few members of the Cabinet singing their hearts out at karaoke last night? Let's have a look at that. So there's Wes Streeting, one of several cabinet ministers. Worth saying that, of course, at all party conferences of all political colours, there are boozy parties, particularly the night before the last day of conference. It finishes at 12 o'clock this morning. That particular party is a sort of institution at Labour conference. It's the Mirror party. There's always karaoke. There's always singing. I suppose the difference is, of course, that Labour have been in opposition for 14 years. Now they are in government, and it's a tricky time, isn't it? Because the Prime Minister has jetted off to the UN, tensions in the Middle East, hundreds of people killed in Lebanon yesterday, and back home, great unhappiness about the winter fuel allowance. Lots of pensioners worried about putting on the heating. So certainly there will be people who look at that clip and think that's really not appropriate, that the Cabinet should be singing and partying. I think, as Eamonn says, there'll be other people who will say, look, fair enough, are people not allowed a bit of downtime? They work very hard. So make your own judgment. Let's have a look when we asked Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, about this a little bit earlier. Let's see what he responded with.
But I just sort of say gently to people and with humility, look at where government by gimmick gets us. Look at where false promises have got us. Look at where recklessness with the public finances have got us. For too many years now, we've had prime ministers, chancellors, ministers who come on and pretend that there are just only easy options or that you don't have to make choices and trade-offs. We're a team, and we're a team that's inherited a dire economic situation. We're a team that's determined to turn the situation around and give Britain its hope back.
So the Health Secretary answering by basically totally ignoring the question and saying what he wanted to say, a line that we've heard again and again, that the previous government governed by gimmick. He also said that the previous Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, should be apologising for the state that the NHS is in now. He's got big plans for reform. Not everybody in the NHS is going to be on board with that, though he says that they all share the wish that the NHS functions better and treats more people. Today, he's going to be announcing plans to take what he's going to say is the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS. Doctors at hospitals that have very good practice in terms of getting lots of procedures done, excellent outcomes, getting waiting lists down. He wants to take those doctors to teach, particularly in deprived areas like Liverpool, where we are, like Glasgow, like Blackpool, where lots of people are out of work on sickness benefits, partly because they're waiting for NHS operations. He thinks if we can get that good practice rolled out to those places, good for people, get them treated, get them back to work and get the benefits bill down. The benefits bill is absolutely huge. It's surged since COVID. It is out of control, many people would think. So this is very urgent. We'll also be hearing from the Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson. And one final point, the winter fuel allowance cut for pensioners is not going away. The government are very firm. They're not backing down, but the unions are holding a vote this morning. It's non-binding. They are likely to condemn it. They want a government U-turn. Lots of unhappiness here. I was talking to pensioners the other day who'd come out to protest in the pouring rain, but it very much looks like the government is not for turning on this.
Catherine, thank you. Appreciate it. Other news that you're waking up to this morning and some breaking coming in.
Yeah, this is in relation to the recent flooding and we're hearing that a 235-acre site in Northamptonshire is being evacuated. This is the Billing Aquadrome Leisure Park, where residents are being urged to leave their homes amid what's being described as a multi-agency response to this bad weather. They say that the search and rescue teams are working with the fire service and ready to respond if needed, doing welfare checks on any vulnerable residents. And they are coordinating their response on the site where there has been an evacuation plan put in place. We will try to keep
So what do you think's happening there? Do you think the park has been flooded and it's spilling out into the neighbourhood?
Yeah, quite often when we have this bad weather, there's a time lag, isn't there, between when the rain falls and it all ends up in the riverways and then you get sort of flooding a little bit later on. It sounds like a large site. It sounds like there could be some vulnerable people there and they're just making sure that nobody is at risk. So they are urging people to evacuate their homes on this 235-acre site in Northamptonshire. We'll update you if we hear any more on that.
OK, other news features like this on this Wednesday. The man who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump on his Florida golf course after stalking the former president, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh, and he could face now a potential life sentence. That's after Trump's camp also said he has received assassination threats from Iran.
New figures released by the NHS has revealed that obesity rates in England have levelled off for the first time in 20 years. The number of children who are classified as obese is now at its lowest level this century. That's just weeks after the government announced its 10-year plan to save the NHS amid growing calls to expand the sugar tax.
Princess of Wales, she's begun planning her Christmas Carol concert. That's as she appeared on the royal agenda for only the second time since announcing the end of her chemotherapy. She held a meeting at Windsor Castle yesterday to discuss her annual festive service, and that will take place at Westminster Abbey. I'm hosting a carol service, so I am.
Are you?
And everybody's going to arrive with their little adopted dogs.
Aww.
So the congregation would be people who have rescued
Yeah, I saw you
dogs.
posting about dog rescue and saying you would have adopted this little doggy if you could have yesterday.
This dog called Bella. And honestly, as you know, I can't touch my toes, I can't do anything, I can't stand up,
bend
whatever
over
it is.
to pet
Can't bend
Bella.
up. I mean, this is as good as you get. Me in this, it's great. Like in this chair, and I can move about and whatever. But outside this, no. But if I honestly, Isabel, if I was in a position to adopt Bella, I would do it. She was rescued from Greece, and I used to think, what are we rescuing dogs from around the world for? There's enough dogs in this country to be rescued, and that might well be the case.
Yeah.
But once you see these little dogs, and I was with about 10 of them last week, and they are beautiful and they are lovely, and it doesn't matter what language you speak or they speak, they just give you love.
Yeah, joy. Oh,
Yeah.
well, maybe somebody watching this morning is in the market for, I don't want a rescue dog. I've got Hector, the love of my life.
Well, Bella wouldn't eat Hector.
Hector might eat Bella. Hector
Maybe.
is a prolific
That may be the case.
killer.
That may be the case.
No, not for me. But that's not to say someone shouldn't. They should, absolutely. Bella sounds
I like a
delightful.
carol concert.
I love a carol concert, yeah.
It
I love candlelight anything. I love a sing-song. Oh, gosh.
Well, anyway, all of those, they're good. They usually happen
Where are
around
you
the
having
first
it?
week. No, that's a good question. It's in
it in
Chiswick.
London?
It's in Chiswick at a church in
Because
Chiswick.
you used to do carols in
St.
Fulham
Michael's.
back in the day, which I've been to with you in the
Oh,
past. That's a nice
I'm
one.
available for anybody's
Yeah.
carol concert.
There we go.
Be out about doing that. Christmas won't have started unless you've been to a
Maybe
carol
we'll get
concert.
invited to Catherine's. You never know. Princess of Wales.
OK. Now, we were talking there about the consequences of flooding the past few days. Let's see what's happening, if the rain has let up or not. Aidan McGivern, good morning.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update for GB News from the Met Office. It's a bright start for many of us, but it is going to turn wet from the south and southwest, with heavy showers in many places away from the more persistent spells of rain that are already starting to move into parts of Wales and the southwest through the morning. The shield of cloud additionally affecting the south and across central parts. Brighter skies for Northern Ireland, Scotland and northern England, a scattering of showers here, and feeling cold in the north of Scotland, 10 or 11 Celsius with a northerly wind. Milder in the south, although not feeling very pleasant as the rain sets in and the winds turn up a notch. So we're going to end the afternoon with a spell of rain moving into Wales, moving away from the southwest, some brighter skies emerging here, but turning damp across London and the home counties, East Anglia. The rain pushing up into northwest England. It will be heaviest across Wales at this stage, but it's going to be persistently damp elsewhere. Southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers, but the most frequent showers heading into the north and northwest of Scotland, interspersed by brighter spells. And actually, we're going to keep the bright spells and showers going through the next few days across northern Scotland, while the rest of the UK sees spells of rain and a lot of cloud cover. The rain tending to slow down as it pushes into southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, and most especially northern England during the night, and those outbreaks of rain are really going to mount up across the northeast of England, with the potential for 80 to 100 millimetres accumulating over the Pennines and the North York Moors, 50 to 80 at lower levels. That could cause some disruption through Thursday, especially for northeast England. Further south, some showers, but a brighter day to come for the far south, and likewise northern Scotland still seeing the cool northerly winds, but bright spells and showers. And then into Friday and Saturday, it turns colder across the whole of the UK.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
In case we forget, the Great British Giveaway, £36,000.
Think of all the little rescue doggies you could look after with that money. You could get a dog walker for you. Well, you can't enter the competition, but if someone was thinking, I don't have enough money, I can't adopt a dog, maybe you should enter the Great British Giveaway.
And you hire then someone to walk the dog, and
that would pay for some of the food. £3,000 a month for a whole year, tax-free. Here's how it could be yours, and so could Bella.
You could be the next command. Good luck.
Now, up next, the lovely Lisa Snowdon. She's going to be talking to us about the unlovely menopause and how it affects not only women, it affects everybody, with the consequences of it. Talking about that next.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're joined by Lewis Oakley and Esther Stanhope. And Lewis, let's start with free gear Keir, shall we? It's been the story of the week, and apparently it's led to, well, calamity in the polls.
Yeah, so he has dropped by 26 points in the opinion polls. And, I mean, it's just been sort of going down from day one. He didn't even start that high. But, yeah, this is just bad optics. As we say, like, he hasn't done anything illegal or wrong. Everything was declared. But at the same time, you're telling people they don't get their winter fuel allowance and you're there walking off with your swag bag. It's just not a good look. And even, you know, I was thinking as well, the optics of them trying to clamp down on MPs having second jobs. You know, any of those could turn around and say, well, actually, we have to pay for our own clothes. I just think it's just bad optics that he's had. And, you know, we've got those comparisons of Sunak in the stands. He's just sat amongst the people. And
Prince William goes to Villa games, albeit in the director's box, but it's not an 8k per game seat. And by the way, can I just mention, this isn't just an isolated Labour incident. Since the start of their tenure, they were accused of filling the civil service with previous Labour donors, previous Labour aides, people who worked for Labour Together think tank. The civil service is meant to be politically neutral, and they bypassed a lot of procedures to get people into their positions, not least the Chancellor Rachel Reeves, who parachuted Ian Caulfield, his name was, who donated £5,000 personally to her, and then he ended up in the Treasury with a 175k a year job. Yes, he did resign after it was revealed in the Times, but it does make you wonder, you know, you've spent years having a go at the Tories for this, and you do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's full of hypocrisy, and also the whole Sue Gray thing, and they were slagging off the Conservatives for not towing the line, and now they're being hypocrites because now they're taking freebies.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The Britain I grew up in was the most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public. Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth, available at gbnews.com.
Now, the TV and radio presenter Lisa Snowdon is on a mission to help women feel more comfortable during the menopause, and particularly when it comes to recognising some of those symptoms.
So let's go live via satellite and say hello, good morning and welcome, Lisa.
Good morning. How are you both?
Well, hopefully I'm doing better than you. Well, like, I mean, I've gone through the menopause, but no one... What are you laughing at?
You're still going through the
I'm telling you. And the other point I want to make about the menopause, Lisa, is we talk about it affects women, and it's an awful thing for so many women. But if it affects the woman in your life, your daughter, your mother, your auntie, whatever it happens to be, it affects you as well, surely.
Absolutely. It affects everybody. It affects the men in our lives, the men that we live with, the men that we work with. It's like it affects everybody. Yes, 51% of it affects us ladies directly, but it does have an impact on everybody. So it's amazing, excuse me, that we're talking about it so much more openly now, and that us women can understand the signs and the symptoms and can get the help that we need to feel better and to start taking control and sort of just really owning our menopause, because I've spoken so openly about it. It doesn't have to be the end of your life. It can be the start of a really new relationship with yourself once you've got a handle on the signs and the symptoms.
Because
now today, Sorry.
I was just going to say, Lisa, I understand that the symptoms of menopause start sometimes 5 to 7, maybe even 10 years before it even kicks in. I'm fine so far, thanks.
Are you? You okay?
But the perimenopause, I believe, can have all sorts of weird symptoms which make women often think they're going crazy. And then a couple of simple blood tests will make them realise, actually, you're just going towards this hugely changing moment in your life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's about 60 symptoms and counting with perimenopause and menopause, and that's why it's really hard to understand what's happening. But we have estrogen receptors from the roots of our hair to the tips of our toes, so we all experience a very different perimenopause and menopause. And perimenopause is the start, when the sort of hormones start declining, and then when you go into menopause, you go into it, not through it, and that's kind of where you haven't had a period for a year or more. So yeah, it can be about 10 years, that process. And like I said, everybody's menopause and perimenopausal symptoms are very different. But what I want to talk to you about today is the fact that it's National Eye Health Week. And one of the symptoms that I didn't know that I was going to be experiencing are eye changes. So I'm working with Vision Express, and they're the first optician on the high street to really upskill their clinical staff and training them in menopause and the link to eye health. So it's not only eyesight that starts to be affected, but a lot of us women experience dry eyes, which is what I've got, which doesn't sound like much, but it is really quite debilitating. So you could get very sore eyes, really gritty, itchy. They can be very kind of watery as well. And what happens is the glands around the eyes get really blocked, so the oil stops producing, and it can have obviously an impact on your vision and make everything blurry as well. So I want to encourage people to get their eyes tested. A lot of women, I think it's over a quarter of women over 45, didn't realise the impact that the menopause was going to have on their eye health, not only for vision, but also all the other things that you can experience as well.
Never heard of that before.
No, maybe that's why I suddenly needed glasses.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I mean, I
think it's all my time on this thing.
Yeah, well, it is screens. A lot of us are on our screens, but it is the impact of the hormones as well. So I started wearing glasses about nearly 5 years ago. And yeah, I've got dry eyes. I've got severely blocked glands, but there isn't, there's getting an advanced eye test is one thing that I would encourage you to do. They not only kind of look for the dry eye detection, but they do an OCT test, which looks at the overall eye health. This is for men as well, Eamonn. This is like not just menopause. This is just sort of getting older in general. And so I'd really get you to go and book in for an advanced eye test. And they're brilliant in there. They're absolutely brilliant. There you go.
We've got glasses. We're all here. We're all at that stage. I'm not the young buck that you remember. That you have worked with, and even I am slowing up a bit these days, I have to say.
Surely not, Eamonn. Surely not.
I thought you were going to crack your George Clooney joke because, of course, we always associate Lisa with her time with George, and you're always confused as George Clooney.
Sure, I go out with her to think she's back with George.
Oh, there you go.
All the time, but we have lunch. People sit and say, "Look at those two together," and whatever. I'm just thinking about my mum, Lisa. God rest her soul. But I remember saying to her, she had 5 sons. And, you could tell there was things happening to her. And I remember, later on in her life saying to her, "Mum, what was the menopause like for you?" And she said, "Menopause? I didn't have the menopause. Why did you not have the menopause, Mum?" "I was too blooming busy looking after you 5 to worry about it." So there's some people have a different attitude to it. And I think it's a terrible curse for most women when they have to go through it and the effects that it does have on their families. But here's something else that we didn't think about: the glasses, the whole eye situation as well.
Yeah, eye health is really important, obviously. We want to look after our eyes. So it's just knowing that these things are also associated with menopause. So eye health is really important, not only to make sure that you get your eyes tested regularly, but do the advanced eye test, because it will look at the overall health of your eyes, and it can be prevented. And also, if you have dry eyes, there's ways around it. There's drops, there's ointment, there's hot eye compresses. So it's not, it's just knowing what's happening to you. And if you are experiencing anything like that, go to the doctors, with any menopausal symptoms, and especially with your eyes as well. Go and get them tested.
Okay. Lovely talking to you, my friend. You stay well. Thank you for the education on all of that.
I like the jumper. I love the bright
It's a dress, Isabel. It's a whole stripy dress. I know.
Perfect
I thought I
for
dressed
breakfast
properly
TV.
today, not just from the waist up. I've got my slippers on though.
Me too. Don't tell anyone. I'm only joking.
Toodle pip, bye-bye. Thank you very much indeed. Lisa Snowden there.
Thank you.
Still to come, how's Eric Ten Hag going to be feeling, seeing his old team face his current one? Paul Coit will explain more right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. Trains have been stopped between Manchester, Piccadilly and Sheffield because of a points failure. On the M56 in Cheshire, there's a lane closed eastbound after an accident between junctions 7 and 6 from Bowden to Hale, causing delays. On the M1 in Derbyshire, the outside lane's closed northbound. There's an accident between junctions 28 and 29 near Mansfield. There are long delays in both directions. And Bedfordshire, the A421 remains closed each way between the A6 and M1 near Bedford because of flooding. And Berkshire on the A34, there's a lane closed northbound just before East Ilsley after an accident with queues from the M4 near Newbury. On the M25 from Kent into Essex, it's down to 2 out of 4 lanes anti-clockwise. The left-hand Dartford tunnel's closed because of a breakdown. There are queues from junction 3 for the M20. And on the M25 in Surrey, a lane closure clockwise, where a car's broken down just before junction 12 for the M3. There are queues from junction 9 at Leatherhead. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
The big tie in the Europa League tonight, Paul Coit, is?
It's Manchester United
yes.
against FC Twente.
And does that mean Football Club 20? Does it mean 20?
I believe it does. How's your Dutch? Or is your double Dutch? Are you double Dutch or single Dutch?
I say to you, when you get a lisp...
Yes.
Yes. And you know, because of the connections between Northern Ireland and Holland and the House of Orange in Holland, a lot of people in Northern Ireland speak like this.
But you know what you remind me of? It was the vicar in when Dick Emery used to do the vicar.
Yes,
with with the big teeth.
Oh, you are awful, but I like you.
Anyway, look, Eric Ten Hag has got links with FC Twente. Look, we've got a picture of him. Look how he's changed over the years. This is him there. This is from my Panini stickers from back in the day. Look at that.
Totally different person.
That's Eric Ten Hag. So what you can do, if you're looking at the screen now, put your hand across the top of his head and then draw a little beard and then you might see Eric Ten Hag. But it's really difficult to tell it's him, isn't it?
Really difficult. Really difficult.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So he's obviously the main link with FC20, and he'd said, he didn't really want to play them because he has a love for them. And the other link for Manchester United and FC20...
His assistant.
Oh, Steve McLaren. Well, Steve McLaren's not anymore because Steve McLaren's now gone to Jamaica. And he's now the manager. Did you not know that? No. Steve McLaren is now the manager of Jamaica.
When did he go there?
Oh, yeah, it's only a couple of months ago. So he's now over there.
I didn't know.
So he's not with
at
United
all.
anymore. Yeah. But obviously spent a lot of time with Alex Ferguson and also Ten Hag.
Yeah.
And was manager of FC20 for a couple of years, which is where this wonderful clip. They always say that if you go to another country, you have to embrace the language.
But he can speak Dutch fluently then.
Fluently, and this is an interview he did in Dutch fluently. Have a look at this. Here we are.
Sort of knew when I came here and Champions League, Liverpool or Arsenal, I thought maybe one of them we would draw, and it is Arsenal, I think. I think we are not just what you call underdogs, but massive underdogs. I think there is no expectations for FC20, so everything is there for a surprise.
You say underdogs? Underdogs, massive underdogs.
Surprise, very good.
But the interesting thing about Erik Ten Hag, we showed the picture of Erik Ten Hag looking young. I've got another picture of a famous manager who also during his playing days, and see if you can recognise him. Have a look at this one. Here's Mikel Arteta. Look, from when he was playing as a young man.
He hasn't changed.
He hasn't changed a bit, has he? So Manchester United versus SV20, and there's Captain Black. His team will be playing Bolton tonight in the Carabao Cup, and Liverpool are at home to West Ham United.
OK, good stuff. Now, tell us more about Kim Jong-un's dad.
Yes.
And what a top golfer he was.
Yes. Now, North Korea have won the women's under-20 World Cup again. They're an amazing team. For a moment, I thought it'd come from the North Korean news agency making it up, but it's absolutely true. But this is my favourite story. This is Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-un's father, and this is back in 1994, and this is true, according to North Korean state media, at the 7,700-yard championship course in Pyongyang, Kim Jong-il played his first ever game of golf, and he shot 38 under par in the very first round of his life, including 11 holes in one. Isn't that unbelievable? And he retired just to give everybody else a chance.
That's a record.
It's unbelievable.
11
holes in one.
Holes in one. And 38 under par.
And his only ever game of golf.
What can I say?
What can he say? So that's amazing, isn't it?
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Now we know.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend. Still to come. 1970s avocado bathroom has made an unlikely comeback in Paul Coyte's house.
It has.
But what do you think? Is it a decor disaster? Avocado bathrooms, OK? Next.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates.
You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
One of the most eminent constitutional experts, Sir Vernon Bogdaner, has published his latest book, Making the Weather, 6 Politicians That Changed Modern Britain, covering 3 eminent figures on the left, Nye Bevan, Roy Jenkins and Tony Benn, as well as 3 on the right, Enoch Powell, Keith Joseph and Nigel Farage. We began by discussing the latter, the newly elected Member of Parliament for Clacton and leader of the Reform Party. I started by asking him how Nigel Farage has had such a fundamental effect on British politics.
Well, it's not difficult to underline Nigel Farage's effect. He's partly, perhaps largely, responsible for Brexit, which, whether one's in favour of it or not, is the most consequential foreign policy decision we've made since the war. And he's also, I think, largely responsible for destroying 3 Conservative Prime Ministers, David Cameron, Theresa May and more recently Rishi Sunak. How's he done it? I think the answer's quite simple. He's a brilliant communicator. And that, in a way, is the first task of a politician, to be a communicator. The first task of an academic is to teach and write books. The first task of a politician is to be able to communicate, and sad to say, neither Keir Starmer nor Rishi Sunak, whatever their other virtues, are very good communicators. So I think that's the reason for his success.
And Nigel's always been very good at communicating a complex issue through a simple message, and that has resonated with the people that he's trying to influence.
Absolutely. He speaks to people with language they can understand. He doesn't use language they can't understand, like missions or strategic aims or management speak, which has really taken over both of the major parties, I think, frankly.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Dear me, all the stories we're talking about in the papers here, the stuff even that the reviewers won't even talk about. But that's the whole thing. Right, so we've got Norman and we've got Dr. Rennie here, and we're going to talk about... What we're going to talk about, first of all?
Well, let's start, shall we, with the nurses being forced out of changing rooms in trans colleague row, which is inside the Telegraph, Renee. It's about 5 NHS nurses who have made a complaint about a trans colleague.
So I find this really interesting, just from the approach of the hospital. So nurses in their changing areas have now been told in this hospital that they have to share the changing room with a male who identifies as female. Now, that's a man with all of his, bits intact. It's a man. So they've complained about this, and the solution of the hospital is to clear out an old matron's office and make the nurses change somewhere else if they are uncomfortable. And it's this approach that I find really interesting, that it's always the women that have to give, that have to sacrifice. It's why don't they just say to the trans men,
if you're uncomfortable in the chaps' changing rooms,
please change in this office. I just don't get it.
It's discriminatory, or...
So why is it not discriminatory against the women, though?
You can't change in the female-only changing room.
Yeah, I find this bizarre, and it's always women that are having to give way. It's never men that are having to give way.
I entirely agree with Rennie on that point. It seems ludicrous, actually, that solution, so-called solution, to be invented. I think they're so frightened of offending people who declare themselves as trans. They're not frightened of offending people who declare themselves as women. That's the point.
See, but could you see yourself standing up and saying, "Oi, Herbert, there's no point trying to pretend you're Harriet here, whatever it is. We object, so you're going to have to go elsewhere." Could you see yourself
I would say to people that they've got a right to say to their own body, just declare themselves how they want to declare themselves. That's fine. I have a problem with that. What I've got a problem with is when it impacts on other people who shouldn't be impacted upon.
And the solution seems quite simple to all of these trans arguments. Just give trans-identifying males and females their own space.
Yeah. Can we talk about this sarcopod, which is a suicide capsule which has been used... I don't want to use the word successfully, but for its intended purpose in Switzerland. A woman apparently enables people to take their own lives without involving a third party at a time of their choosing. Now, Swiss police have actually opened a criminal investigation into this and arrested several people, even though the woman involved obviously did it herself. Tell us more about this, Renee.
So, obviously, there is already Dignitas that exists in Switzerland, and people can go there and often do when they want to bring their life to an end because they're suffering from, a horrible disease like motor neuron disease or whatever else it is. So it's a bit odd that this one is now being investigated criminally. I guess it's just not licensed. I'm absolutely torn on this subject because I really do believe that if something, God forbid, happened to me tomorrow and I was completely, incapacitated, or I had 6 months of a horrible death ahead of me, I would want to do this. At the same time, I have witnessed people bullying Granny in a stroke rehab unit to shuffle off this mortal coil because they want to inherit the house. And I'm just not sure that we can put the safeguards in to protect that. I'm also very worried that in places like Canada and Holland, the Netherlands, we are now seeing people who are being invited to commit suicide for being depressed.
Yeah.
Children, young teenagers with eating disorders. I'm worried where it goes.
Yeah. There could be a vote on assisted dying in this country very, very soon, and a debate as well. It is very, very emotive topic.
Well, the issue comes down to safeguards. It comes down to the regulation of it, because this Swiss situation here appears to be, on the face of it, I don't know the full facts, but on the basis of what we've been told, rather lax in terms of the protection there. And obviously there are people who can be forced into a situation they want to be into. On the other hand, there are people who would say, with some legitimacy, you know, I want to control my own life.
Yeah.
It's my body.
Anybody who is feeling like they could do with some support, a reminder that the Samaritans is there free of charge for anybody. The telephone number 116 123.
Now, Renee, what colour's your bathroom?
White.
White. That's enough. So anyway, Wix are saying they've done a report into people who are between 25 and 34 years of age, and more than a quarter of them want to upgrade their bathroom to an avocado colour. Now, those of us who have lived through the 70s and whatever probably think been there, done that, got the T-shirt, not be doing it again.
I know. I mean, I wonder if this links back to the eyesight story.
Yes,
People just aren't seeing it for what it really is, because it really is quite grim. I mean, it's not quite as dark as Norman shirt today, but avocado bathrooms really are quite grim, in my personal opinion.
Well, it's subjective, but I totally agree with that. And also, I have to say, back to the 70s, you had orange and purple carpets and pubs and houses, and they were ghastly, and flock wallpaper. Let's not go back to those lots of days.
No, but we just call it sage and tell ourselves it's more tasteful. I'm in the middle of choosing a sage for my bathroom, but not for the sink and the loo, for the tiles. And I'm doing stripes.
Oh, but that's...
Everywhere you go, there's stripy tiles. Skinny,
That's
long
different,
stripes.
though. So in my white bathroom, I do have some beige and browns in the tiles, but the bathroom suite is white.
Yeah.
An avocado colour bathroom suite, I think, is
too much to behold.
It's too much.
Should we talk about Philip Schofield? The Sun have a big scoop. He's on their front page, and he's a double-page splash inside, from outcast to cast away. This is him on his own for 10 days on an island off Madagascar, where he says he has a chance to share his story unedited and honest. And this is described, he's described as very bruised, and this is just him taking some time to weigh up things before he makes any major decisions. The Channel 5 programme will air later on this year.
Is this not the chance for a narcissist to just have more me time on screen? I mean, I don't want to know his story. I'm not interested in it. I know that he's, you know, a celeb, and people do seem to lap up any news, whether it's good or bad. But I think it's time he maybe stayed on the island.
I mean, my reaction is, so what? You know, he's over there, he can sort himself out. You're on a nice holiday as far as I'm concerned, that's fine. I don't want to know about it, I'm not interested in it. And why is the Sun giving 2 pages to it? I suppose it sells papers, but, I mean, really, is that the most important thing in the papers
Well,
today?
he was one of our most high-profile presenters in the country. He was married and he had 2 children when the scandal emerged. He lost all of his TV work, including Dancing on Ice. He fell out with his one-time best friend and co-host, Holly Willoughby, who also, frankly, didn't she lose her job off the back of it all as well? And he's had to leave social media, so he...
My heart bleeds.
There we go.
Very good. Very good. Right. Now, I didn't know, Norman, that the Loch Ness Monster...
Let's get on to more serious matters.
We should.
Yes. Well, we haven't even gone into what we could have gone into with Schofield, so let's just lighten the load. Nessie, Loch Ness Monster, was a female. They call it she in the front of the Star today. It says, what does it say? She.
Yes, I think...
Well, it says, reveals the wicked sense of humour. She plays pranks and boaters. I was never aware that the Loch Ness Monster was female.
How old is this Loch Ness Monster? Because it must be about 150 by now, the age of this thing. Look, I mean, if it's a Loch Ness Monster, there has to be more than one Loch Ness Monster so they can breed. Otherwise, the thing will die out over a period of time.
Monsters live on forever.
Well,
People's imaginations, Norman.
The story here is that Jeff Potts an experienced guide and his son Chris were paddling their own canoes, literally, I think, rather than metaphorically, on Loch Ness.
Peddling.
And the sudden impact from below caused him to lose grip of his paddle, which I think is literally as well as rather than metaphorical. You know, they think it's a Loch Ness monster. Well, it could have been a wave, couldn't it? Or it could have been a
pipe,
anything,
or
you know,
anything.
a fish. But anyway,
it's good
nice
for
story.
tourism. And as a Scot, you should welcome that with open arms.
I did go to Loch Ness once upon a time, many years ago. Didn't see anything, I have to say. Very disappointed, apart from lots of fog.
Well, that's why you didn't see anything.
That's probably right, yeah.
Have you been to Loch Ness? I feel like you're the sort of person that's probably been on a tour,
I've sailed
cruise.
Loch Ness.
You've been waiting in.
I've sailed Loch Ness.
Yeah, and did you see Nessie?
No, I did not see Nessie.
Because she doesn't exist.
And you see, the thing about the water in Loch Ness is that it's not blue the way it looks in that.
No, what colour is it?
It's black.
Oh, that's even more freaky.
Black.
Is that because it's so deep?
No, it's to do with the peat that's there in the water.
It is deep, though. It's very deep. That's the theory as to why Ness is at the bottom somewhere, allegedly.
On her own.
On her own.
Immaculately conceiving.
For decades, centuries even.
Oh, no, thank you.
Rennie, net zero could cost 1 million jobs. So this is the big push from the Labour Party to get us all to a net zero situation. A lot of people say it's costing them a lot of money to do so. What do you make of these plans?
I think this is really interesting. I mean, we know this, don't we, already? But I think the fact that Labour now have their biggest union standing up and saying this, and this was Gary Smith, who is the GMB leader at the conference yesterday, saying that it's bonkers that if we keep to this target, we're going to lose 1 million jobs. And we have seen this week that Tata Steel, given £500 million of UK taxpayers' money to lose 3,000 jobs at Port Talbot and change the blast furnace to an electric furnace that cannot make high-grade steel, have announced that they are now opening their own blast furnace in India. So we are paying for these people to outsource our jobs, because it won't just be 3,000 jobs in Port Talbot, it will be a whole community. And Gary Smith says that. He says the new jobs are not happening, and yet we are decarbonising. We're putting people and whole communities on the scrap heap. And we should have learnt from the mining crisis, shouldn't we, where we put whole communities on the scrap
I suppose the argument would be, you know, this is the whole thing that Starmer's trying to sell: short-term pain, long-term gain. You've got to do something about, you know, polluting the planet. And they're coming up with this idea of GB Power. It's going to be based in Aberdeen, presumably.
Yes,
that will create a huge number of jobs.
My hometown, very happy about that, because obviously the oil won't last forever up there. So that's right. Look, I mean, there is a serious problem with climate change, and no doubt about that. You just look at the recent floods in Central Europe, which have been identified as being climate change consequences.
Snow in Johannesburg yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just getting warmer, by the way. It's about climate change. We could get colder in this country because the Gulf Stream could be affected by waters coming down from the Arctic. So it's not about getting warmer, it's about change in climate. But look, the Danes made a lot of money out of being first on wind farms. There were wind turbines, first of all, and they collared the market on it. There's going to be a lot of investment in climate change technology coming through.
Americans have also been propping up their economy by going green, haven't they?
They have, and so I don't. The point about Tata I accept from Rennie, but I don't accept we're going to lose 1 million jobs. There are jobs to be created from this.
The Americans are fracking, taking their oil out of the ground. They are completely energy sufficient. We are not. All we are doing with this, and we contribute 1% of the world's emissions, all we are doing is offshoring our emissions. We're not changing anything for the climate, because they will carry on in India and China, and we will then buy our steel from them, which we will ship over at great carbon footprint and great cost, whilst losing jobs here. And this is just words. Oh, it's going to create lots of jobs. Oh, there will be more jobs. These are manual workers who need manual jobs. They're not going to be coding or high-tech.
I agree with the point about steel. It's exactly right. But we aren't energy self-sufficient. We're importing gas from dangerous and unstable countries. So the way we deal with that is to make ourselves energy sufficient, which is by investment in renewables.
Or take it out of the ground when we're sitting on it.
Take what out of the ground? Coal?
Take coal, take oil, make our own gas.
And have climate change reinforced?
Oh,
no, we don't
honestly,
want that.
1% of the world's emissions. This is just nonsense.
It isn't nonsense.
They're not going to agree on this one, but we will draw a line there. Renee and Norman Baker, appreciate you as always. Thanks very much for taking us through that. We're going to get a check on that forecast, as we were talking about a difficult situation where people are being evacuated in Norfolk this morning. Here is Aidan McGee with your forecast.
Looks like things are heating up.
boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update for GB News from the Met Office. It's a bright start for many of us, but it is going to turn wet from the south and southwest, with heavy showers in many places away from the more persistent spells of rain that are already starting to move into parts of Wales and the southwest through the morning. The shield of cloud additionally affecting the south and across central parts. Brighter skies for Northern Ireland, Scotland and northern England, a scattering of showers here, and feeling cold in the north of Scotland, 10 or 11 Celsius with a northerly wind. Milder in the south, although not feeling very pleasant as the rain sets in and the winds turn up a notch. So we're going to end the afternoon with a spell of rain moving into Wales, moving away from the southwest, some brighter skies emerging here, but turning damp across London and the home counties, East Anglia. The rain pushing up into northwest England. It will be heaviest across Wales at this stage, but it's going to be persistently damp elsewhere. Southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers, but the most frequent showers heading into the north and northwest of Scotland. They're dispersed by brighter spells. And actually, we're going to keep the bright spells and showers going through the next few days across northern Scotland, while the rest of the UK sees spells of rain and a lot of cloud cover. The rain tending to slow down as it pushes into southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, and most especially northern England during the night, and those outbreaks of rain are really going to mount up across the northeast of England, with the potential for 80 to 100 millimetres accumulating over the Pennines and the North York Moors, 50 to 80 at lower levels. That could cause some disruption through Thursday, especially for northeast England. Further south, some showers, but a brighter day to come for the far south, and likewise northern Scotland still seeing the cool northerly winds, but bright spells and showers. And then into Friday and Saturday, it turns colder across the whole of the UK.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M74 in Glasgow, the outside lanes closed northbound where someone's broken down between junctions 1A and 1 from Polmady to the M8. It's taking 40 minutes in queues from junction 4 at Maryville. Train services are suspended between Manchester, Piccadilly and Sheffield because of a points failure. On the M1 in Derbyshire, the outside lanes closed northbound after an accident between junctions 28 and 29 near Mansfield. It's taking around 40 minutes in the queues, and there are southbound delays past the scene. On the M1 in Leicestershire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 22 and 21 from Ashby de la Zouch towards Leicester, causing delays. On the M25 in Kent, there are long anti-clockwise delays from junction 3 for the M20 to the Dartford tunnels after a breakdown. On the M2 in Kent, there's a lane closed westbound. There's an accident between junctions 5 and 4 from Sittingbourne to Gillingham, causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
You could be the demand. Good luck.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. The Prime Minister is ordering British citizens to evacuate Lebanon as the Middle East teeters on the brink.
1,700 troops are en route to Cyprus as Israeli airstrikes kill over 500 people over the past few days.
Well, that's as Starmer lands in New York to join world leaders at the UN General Assembly.
Prime Minister also made his first speech at the Labour conference yesterday, insisting short-term pain is necessary to rebuild Britain.
This will be tough in the short term, but in the long term, it's the right thing to do for our country, and we all benefit from that.
Health Secretary Wes Streeting will order the NHS to prioritise clearing backlogs during his speech in Liverpool today. That's after he was filmed singing last night in a video that some are calling tone deaf.
And the Earthshot Prize nominations are announced. A special message from the Prince of Wales.
I'm delighted to introduce you to this year's 15 new Earthshot Prize finalists. These solutions are some of the most exciting, innovative and impactful we've seen, and the people behind them are true inspirations.
The weather's turning more unsettled once again through the next few days, with persistent rain across some central and northern parts, and then it turns colder everywhere. All the latest details in the forecast coming up soon.
Hello there, it's a Wednesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes and this is GB News.
I'm Isabel Webster, it's 9:01. So to our top story, the Prime Minister telling thousands of British nationals in Lebanon to leave the country immediately.
Now, around 700 British troops are being deployed to be in Cyprus today. They'll remain on standby in case of emergency evacuations. That's what they're being sent for.
Well, that's after thousands of pages and walkie-talkies exploded across Lebanon last week. Since then, Israel have launched a targeted attack on Iranian proxy group Hezbollah.
Well, joined us now, director of online-based political media outlet Polyblog, and that's George Wardini. George, good seeing you. George, you are in Lebanon, as I understand it?
Yes, I am currently in Jbeil, which is 35 kilometers north of Beirut.
And how would you describe how things are?
Well, for over a year, we've been watching, for a bit under a year, we've been watching with horror, knowing that the carefully managed escalation between Hezbollah and Israel could very much reach this breaking point. We've been warning, and we've been feeling very powerless towards the situation as Lebanese citizens. And now here we are, almost a year after October 8th, which is the day that Hezbollah initiated this this conflict with Israel as a support front for Hamas in Gaza. And we have seen this before. In 2006, Hezbollah and Israel went out in a devastating war for 33 days, and no one wanted to see this play out in Lebanon again. But here we are. There are hundreds of deaths every day ever since the past week. You've talked about the spy ops, the pagers exploding across thousands of individuals in the country. And there are hundreds of airstrikes, even thousands of airstrikes every day throughout much of the country, even in places that have been so far regarded relatively safer zones, which is a few kilometers away from my house in Jbeil. And while Israel is saying that it's directing Hezbollah's infrastructure directly, not all the strikes are actually hitting Hezbollah's infrastructure. There have been so far around 500 deaths and casualties and thousands of injuries. And there's a worry in Lebanon that the narrative that we've seen in Gaza might be recreating itself here in Lebanon. There are nearly 500,000 internally displaced people in the south, and the state is completely unable to cope with their urgent needs. Energy, food, shelter, everything is scarce. And Lebanon is, it's very battered with one of the most severe economic downfalls in modern history, the August 4 blast that just happened 4 years ago, and the total political paralysis, which is also thanks to Hezbollah's domestic hegemony that is not allowing us to have any kind of self-determinance here. So this is the situation. Meanwhile, Hezbollah is holding on to a losing war by refusing to dissociate Lebanon from the Gaza war.
Yeah, and George, anyone with a dual citizenship and indeed foreign citizens, among them 10,000 British people being urged by their governments to leave your country. And yet we understand there are hardly any flights going into or out of Beirut today. Are you able to give us an update on that? Because our own national carrier, the British Airlines, they've cancelled flights. And so our troops are being put on standby to potentially land on your long strip of coastline there and sort of what's being described as a Dunkirk-style evacuation. Should there be no commercial options available?
Well, Lebanon operates only one civilian airport, and it's in Beirut. It's in a very vulnerable state, and there have been rumors about Hezbollah using the airport for tactical reasons related to its military infrastructure. So we hope the airport does not turn into a target, and it should not turn into a target, even if Hezbollah is using it as some claim. But yes, flights into the country are very scarce, very limited. There's only one or two airlines operating right now. This is a problem even for Lebanese people who, there are almost 5 million Lebanese people living abroad that still come to Lebanon. A lot of them are second generation, and they come here every summer, but a lot of these people were unable to arrive to see their families or had to be rushed out quickly, cutting their vacations short. So this is a problem for everyone, and it's because the airport is in a very vulnerable position.
Do you think that the UN General Assembly meeting in New York could actually help you, the timing of all of this? Because they famously helped to draw up a resolution when the last conflict happened in 2006, introducing this buffer zone in the north of Israel and the south of Lebanon. That would calm things down, even if it was just temporary at this point. Or do you feel as though that the UN have frankly lost any sort of impact and it's a talking shop, but nobody really takes any notice?
The UN and the Western world has definitely lost its leverage over Israel, seemingly. But the problem also lies that there is no Lebanese leadership that is representing Lebanon's interests anywhere. Even the Lebanese state and the Lebanese foreign minister, who is also currently at the sidelines in New York, is there largely doing Hezbollah's bidding, because the Lebanese state is completely subverted. And the difference between the war now and the war in July is that July 2006 is that in 2006 there was a very strong Lebanese state with very well-connected diplomats that catered for this country's interests, and they were able to force a deal on Hezbollah and on Israel through their diplomatic channels. Today, we have no leadership and no representation. The state is mostly a bystander. So, and we have had no president for almost 2 years. The parliament is completely paralyzed. So, as Lebanese people, we feel like we have no leadership representing us at the moment. And we hope that the outcome of whatever deal happens is not another extension of false or limited stability that rewards Hezbollah for its violence, nor one that allows Israel to maintain any kind of land occupation over Lebanon, because this is not the solution for anyone. Hezbollah cannot be defeated through violence alone. But I think the pressure point, I think what's interesting at the UN, what's happening, is the remarks by the Iranian leadership that we've been witnessing. Here in Lebanon, we've been witnessing it with total shock. Iran seems to be distancing itself from Hezbollah. It's saying that Hezbollah is unable to defend Lebanon against Israel alone. And it kind of seems like they are urging Hezbollah not to be drawn into a war because they are trying to reach a deal directly with the United States. So what that could lead into is interesting, but we are very skeptical and we are very worried.
Briefly, if you would, how do you see this whole situation? Is this a short-term inconvenience, or is this going to be long-term?
This is a cycle. Before whether or not this ends short-term or long-term, this is definitely part of a cycle of violence that Lebanon has been dealing with for decades, specifically in 2006 and now in 2024 directly with Israel. I don't think this war is sustainable in the long term for Hezbollah, and I don't think Israel wants a ground invasion, because a ground invasion would re-legitimize Hezbollah as a resistance force. I think what the Israelis are even saying themselves, they're trying to force Hezbollah into surrender. Now, what happens internally in Lebanon after? This is going to be a big problem for the Lebanese, because after the July 2006 war, Hezbollah was battered, but it turned inward. We saw a series of assassinations that targeted its most vocal critics. The very same diplomats that helped save Hezbollah from its July war were then targeted by Hezbollah. We saw a mini civil war 2 years later in Beirut. And the problem is that every time Hezbollah throws a tantrum, so to speak, it gets rewarded by the international community so that they could maintain this temporary stability. So we really hope that this time there's a different outcome.
George, really appreciate your analysis of things. Stay safe, and thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Yeah, George,
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed. Now to domestic matters, and the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, is going to be making his big speech today at the Labour conference in Liverpool at 10 o'clock this morning.
Now, he promises to take the best of the NHS and give it to the rest of the NHS. That is despite questions remaining over how they plan to resolve the pay dispute with nurses, currently standing at 5.5%. Here's what he said earlier on this very programme.
Our NHS is broken. It's going through what is objectively the worst crisis in its history, and that's had really serious consequences for patient care. And we've got to reform the NHS, not just to confront the crisis in front of us today, but to prepare the NHS to weather the coming storm of growing ageing society, rising levels of chronic disease and rising cost pressures. I'm going to take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS.
Let's go to conference there in Liverpool for us, our correspondent Catherine Walker. Catherine Foster, tell us more.
Yes, good morning, Eamonn and Isabel. So conference finishes at 12 o'clock today. The Prime Minister, of course, has gone off to New York amid the escalating crisis in the Middle East. But plenty still happening here. We'll be hearing from Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary. We'll be hearing Bridget Phillipson's plans for education. And we'll also be hearing from Liz Kendall from the Department of Work and Pensions. But on Wes Streeting, he's got big plans to reform the NHS. He's certainly going to have his work cut out. He's saying that the NHS is broken. He's saying that the previous Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, should be saying sorry for the state that they have left it in. One of the things that he's announcing today is to try to get people treated quicker, those huge waiting lists that have not been going down for years, partly as a result of the strikes, of course. And he's saying he wants doctors and hospitals that have really great practice in terms of working efficiently, getting through lots of procedures, to teach other areas how they do that, particularly deprived areas like Blackpool, like Liverpool, where we are, like Glasgow, where 20% or more of the working age population are on out-of-work benefits, many of whom are sick, many of whom are waiting for treatment. So the thinking is that not only would it be good for them, but it would be good for the economy, because if you can treat these people, get them back into work, they will be contributing, paying taxes, and also they'll be bringing the benefits bill down. The welfare bill is frankly astronomical at the moment. It surged under COVID. Lots of people off on long-term sick. This is really urgent and very, very expensive for the government. I think the mood at conference, the Prime Minister's speech, did give people a bit of a lift. What struck me here is that last year the mood was incredible, the optimism, the energy. They thought they were on the brink of power. Now here they are in power. You'd sort of expect them to be euphoric. Of course they're very happy. They've got this huge majority. But the reality of governing is kicking in. They're finding that it is very hard. They're making decisions that are unpopular. They've had several missteps, not least the donations, the dresses, the spectacles, the tickets here and there, which has gone on over many, many days. They'll be hoping now that they can move on. But another controversy this morning, because last night was the Mirror Party, cabinet ministers singing at karaoke. Let's have a quick look. So Wes Streeting, one of the cabinet ministers, singing last night. The Mirror Party is a sort of institution of Labour conference and karaoke in particular. Worth saying, of course, that all political parties have boozy gatherings, especially on the last night. I suppose the difference is that after 14 years in opposition, Labour are now in government. Now, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, was asked a little bit earlier about whether it was appropriate. Let's see what he had to say.
But I just sort of say gently to people and with humility Look at where government by gimmick gets us. Look at where false promises have got us. Look at where recklessness with the public finances have got us. For too many years now, we've had prime ministers, chancellors, ministers who come on and pretend that there are just only easy options, or that you don't have to make choices and trade-offs. We're a team, and we're a team that's inherited a dire economic situation. We're a team that's determined to turn the situation around and give Britain its hope back.
Yeah, you see Wes Streeting resolutely not answering the question there. Quite aside from the optics and whether or not he was right or not to be at this party and having a good time, it's pretty impressive. Out there late at night, singing his heart out, on the media round this morning, and then on stage at conference at 10 a.m. Talk about burning the candle at both ends. The guy's got energy. Just like you, Catherine, thank you for keeping us up to date all through the programme this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And you'll appreciate us if you take our advice and enter our Great British Giveaway competition. 36,000 quid could be coming your way.
You could be the next Great British Giveaway winner with a whopping £36,000 in tax-free cash in your bank account. Imagine getting the winning phone call for that. And good luck.
Good luck indeed. Coming up, find out what Prince William got up to yesterday after this.
The Britain I grew up in was the most peaceful, gentle society that has ever existed. That has been destroyed.
Opinion polls show immigration is the #1 concern to the British public. Are you proud to be British?
Yeah, I'm ever so proud.
My name is Stephen Edgington, and in this documentary, I want to find out how Britain became a nation of immigrants. Immigration, the truth, available at gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Well, the first thing on in my mind when I heard about this is, what has this country come to when we're talking about getting kids as young as 6 years old to be jabbed weekly or however often it is, because they are too fat. Where are the parents in all of this? There's three things actually here that are important. Number one is we do not know the long-term consequences of these jabs. So if I had a child and I was going to let them have the jab, I would be feeling like I'm treating them like a lab rat, to be quite honest with you, because we don't know the long-term consequences. Secondly, the manufacturers are clear that some of the potential side effects can be very serious. We're talking about potentially pancreatitis, let's get my word out, and also it lists as a potential side effect thyroid cancer. Arguably, it's called the gamble jab, to be honest with you, because of these potential side effects at the moment. And then thirdly, I come back to the parents. Where are the parents in all of this? Because they are the role models. So it really is about parenting, and it's about parenting from being a role model yourself in terms of being slim and healthy, and not expecting a jab to take your place and other people to take your place. If you have children, they are your responsibility. Think before you breed. The other thing you need to remember with this is when you stop taking that jab, it is highly likely that you're going to put all the weight back on. Now, the thought of a child of 6 years of age, starting with that jab, conditioning them mentally to live with that jab, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely not on.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Earthshot, the Prince of Wales says this year's finalists are the most exciting nominees ever.
Yes, and in a video, Prince William also unveiled those who had made the shortlist. Here's our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, with all the details.
I'm delighted to introduce you to this year's 50 new Earthshot Prize finalists. These solutions are some of the most exciting, innovative and impactful we've seen. and the people behind them are true inspirations. I know you're as passionate as I am about making a difference to our planet, and we can't wait to share their stories with you.
Prince William's unveiled his fourth cohort of Earthshot Prize finalists, each finding a new solution to repair the planet, with an ambition to scale it and tackle what are claimed to be urgent climate challenges. 15 finalists from across the world are now in the running to receive 5 £1 million prizes, which will be awarded in Cape Town this November. British finalists Douglas Martin, who founded MyAlgae, offering a sustainable plant-based alternative to fish oil, and Dimple Patel from Nature Metrics, which uses eDNA to produce an accurate picture of an area's biodiversity, explains how Prince William is having an impact.
The networks that Prince William's able to open, and honestly, just to be here and to see the people in the room is a testament to the amount of work that he's put in.
Is able to really drive forward that conversation of we can do this properly, we can use the right data, we can quantify our impact, and then we can hold people accountable to make sure that we're taking the steps we need to build a greener future.
The Prince of Wales started this mission in 2020, keen to turn doom and gloom scaremongering into climate optimism. There are 5 categories, or Earthshots: protect and restore nature, clean our air, revive our oceans, build a waste-free world, and fix our climate. Inspired by John F. Kennedy's Moonshot project achieving the seemingly impossible task to put a man on the moon, Prince William wants to find seemingly impossible solutions to restore the planet. He's taking after his father, the King, and grandfather, Prince Philip, as environmentalists, and Michael Bloomberg, who now advises Earthshot winners, believes the future King's focus is young people.
The Prince is helping the next generation lead the way by building on his family's long track record of environmental stewardship.
From transforming food waste into nutritious ingredients to bringing clean energy to rural Africa, this year's finalists are hoping to make a global impact. The prize ceremony is just weeks away, but that will just be the start of their journey to make that dream into a reality. Cameron Walker, GB News.
My Earthshot Prize would go to Andrew and Bev in a couple of minutes' time. What have you got, Beverly?
Well, Andrew is still up in Liverpool. I imagine he's one of the last people remaining there, although we have got the speech from Wes Streeting this morning. Health, such a massive issue. Be interesting to hear what he's got to say, won't it, Andrew?
Yeah, and we've also got the Work and Pension Secretary, Liz Kendall, and of course the winter fuel allowance is really on her watch, but I suspect she'll say about as much about it as Keir Starmer. In that 50-minute speech, which felt like 50 years to me, he only mentioned winter fuel once, and we're going to get the big vote today from the Labour movement, the trade unions, and I'm convinced it will be a decisive rejection of the policy. But where's the Prime Minister? He's gone. He's gone to New York to talk about Ukraine and the Middle East. So well away from it, and all staged managed to make sure not only is he not in the building for this humiliating vote, he's not even in the country.
Andrew, were you at the Mirror party?
I'm afraid I don't go to the Daily
Wanted
Mirror
the inside
party
scoop.
I'm not allowed to the Labour conference, you know, Isabel.
Fair enough.
But there was there is a queue to get in, so I went to bed. I was in bed by 11.
Fair enough.
That's early.
Right.
There we go.
Good stuff. Looking forward to more from both of you at 9:30, bright and early.
I fancy going to bed right now. Yeah, well, anyway, Bev and Andrew up next. Have a good day.
Here's your forecast.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update for GB News from the Met Office. It's a bright start for many of us, but it is going to turn wet from the south and southwest, with heavy showers in many places away from the more persistent spells of rain that are already starting to move into parts of Wales and the southwest through the morning. The shield of cloud additionally affecting the south and across central parts. Brighter skies for Northern Ireland, Scotland and Northern England, a scattering of showers here, and feeling cold in the north of Scotland, 10 or 11 Celsius with a northerly wind. Milder in the south, although not feeling very pleasant as the rain sets in and the winds turn up a notch. So we're going to end the afternoon with a spell of rain moving into Wales, moving away from the southwest, some brighter skies emerging here, but turning damp across London and the home counties, East Anglia. The rain pushing up into northwest England. It will be heaviest across Wales at this stage, but it's going to be persistently damp elsewhere. Southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, a few showers, but the most frequent showers heading into the north and northwest of Scotland, interspersed by brighter spells. And actually, we're going to keep the bright spells and showers going through the next few days across northern Scotland, while the rest of the UK sees spells of rain and a lot of cloud cover. The rain tending to slow down as it pushes into southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, and most especially northern England during the night, and those outbreaks of rain are really going to mount up across the northeast of England, with the potential for 80 to 100 millimetres accumulating over the Pennines and the North York Moors, 50 to 80 at lower levels. That could cause some disruption through Thursday, especially for northeast England. Further south, some showers, but a brighter day to come for the far south, and likewise northern Scotland still seeing the cool northerly winds, but bright spells and showers. And then into Friday and Saturday, it turns colder across the whole of the UK.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 towards Belfast, the inside lane's closed where someone's broken down at junction 7 south of Lisbon, causing queues. Train services are suspended between Manchester, Piccadilly and Sheffield because of a points failure. On the M1 in Derbyshire, there's a lane closed northbound after an accident between junctions 28 and 29 near Mansfield, causing delays. On the M1 in Leicestershire, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between junctions 22 and 21 from Ashby de la Zouch towards Leicester, and it's very slow towards and past there. On the M25 in Kent, it's taking 3/4 of an hour in anti-clockwise queues from junction 3 for the M20 to the Dartford tunnels after a breakdown earlier. On the M25 in Surrey, there's a lane closed clockwise where a car's broken down just before junction 10 for the A3, with queues from junction 9 at Leatherhead. On the M5 near Bristol, 2 lanes are closed northbound for repairs at junction 19 at Portishead, causing delays.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
When I knew that I was doing this segment this week, I feel like this week was a real homework task for me, because I'll be honest, I haven't been around Scottish food much in my life, but I obviously know all the obvious. And I thought I'd bring in a selection of some of, I guess, the sort of the quintessential culinary delights of the North. I mean, we have in front of us haggis.
I think we should begin with some haggis.
So, Michael, I've never eaten haggis before. This is going to be the first time.
Well, have you eaten anything like haggis before? Have you eaten anything that is made from the intestines of an animal?
I mean, I've had things like chopped liver and, you know, a bit of offal here and there.
Well, there we are. I mean, I got a great surprise. I was holding a great, when I was in government, I was holding a great party in Scotland, and I had a lot of Spanish visitors, and I was offering them haggis, and I thought that they would be astonished by haggis and maybe repelled. But when they ate it, they said, oh, no, this is morcilla. So, you know, there is an equivalent in Spain.
Absolutely.
So if I recall, and you've probably been mugging it up, which I have not, but haggis is made within the stomach of a sheep.
Yes.
And you take the heart and the lungs and some other part of the sheep and you mash it up.
With onions, oatmeal, suet.
Yes.
And it's stuffed into the sheep's stomach. But a lot of the haggis you get these days, especially sort of the slightly cheaper varieties in supermarkets, it's usually an artificial casing. Oh. You know what? This is actually quite nice.
I think it's absolutely heavenly. And
it's very savoury.
To me, it's two things. Yes, to me, it's two things. It's both the taste and the texture. You quite rightly refer to the oatmeal going in there. So it's got this crunchy, granular sort of texture. Marvellous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good morning, 9:30 on Wednesday, the 25th of September. Live across the UK, this is Britain's Newsroom with me, Andrew Pearce, at the Labour Conference in Liverpool, and Bev Turner in London.
Very good morning. So, on the final day of the Labour Conference, delegates will vote on the decision to cut winter fuel payments for 10 million pensioners. The Prime Minister won't see the result as he's off to a meeting in New York with the UN. Meanwhile... MPs doing karaoke, nothing worse. As pensioners shiver and troops are deployed to the Middle East, Labour Minister Jeff Phillips was having a great time at the Labour conference. She wasn't alone in the tone-deaf karaoke, though. Here's Health Secretary Wes Streeting and former MP Jonathan Ashworth.